My name is Monica Gleberman, and you're listening to Silence on Set podcast. On today's podcast, we're talking to Katie Findlay, who plays Kate on the CW show Wallker Independence. The show was set in the 1800s and was an origin story of the series Wallker. It followed Abby Wallker, an affluent and tough-minded Bostonian whose husband is murdered before her eyes while on her journey out west. Abby arrives in the town of Independence, Texas, where she encounters diverse and fun residents running from their past, chasing their dreams, and keeping their own secrets. Unfortunately, we're in the middle of trying to save Wallker Independence, so hashtag save Wallker Independence. But I had the lovely, best time speaking with Katie Findlay about everything related to the show, why it's so special, why we should really have a season 2, and just all of the things that we really need to be focusing on in terms of entertainment, television, behind the scenes, actors, the WGA, just everything is in there. It was a no-holds-barred interview, and let me tell you, she is one of the coolest people that I've ever met, and one of the most open and fun interviews that I've done in a really long time. So I hope you guys enjoy listening to me and Katie discuss Wallker Independence, and hopefully, keeping our fingers crossed, a possible season 2. So, I can tell everybody, we were talking for a long time before I hit record because I love you so much. I was basically just telling Katie how much I am obsessed with Katie and all things Katie, basically.
Hello.
That's what we were literally just talking for like half an hour before hitting it. But
45.
I am so happy to have you on here and to talk to you.
Well, I am delighted to be here. I don't know what I did to earn this like abundance of kindness and joy, but I will take it. Absolutely.
Well, and I said this, and for anyone listening that has listened through this whole Wallker Independence and Winchester situation, they will all know that every single cast member has told me that I have to talk to Katie, and that 5 minutes into our conversation, I was like, yes, it's because we're the same person. Because
it's so that they don't have to talk to me. They need to get other people to talk to me so that I stop calling them. Because they had to put up with me every day for many years.
They all love you, and everyone was like, the second you guys talk, you guys are gonna be best friends. And I was like, 5 minutes into our conversation before I hit record, I was like, yep, correct. I was like, check. So
well, you're great. So I think that is a great compliment.
Well, it's amazing to have you on here. So let's talk about, I'm just gonna start off with the big freaking elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Show got canceled.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. So Wallker Independence, I fucking love this show. And so I really was like hoping for season 2. There's so much story to tell. I like how it ended because it did end in a way where like you can kind of feel okay about it. Because I hate when shows end and it's like really bad and you're like, no,
I have no idea what's happening now.
Yeah. And like it like just like guts your soul because you're like, no, like, and I do understand, back in the day, because we were talking about this because you've been acting a long time. We didn't have this luxury back in the day too, where like shows would get canceled. There was no like kind of like final episode that could be ambiguous. There was no, it could be shopped around. It was just gone. Like one day you was watching a show and it was just gone. Yeah, it was just gone. Yeah. So I like those positives, but we're at a point where we don't know what's going on with the show. So is there anything, what is the latest, I guess? Where are we at? We're right now everyone's doing hashtag save Wallker. Is anything going on that you've heard of, or is it being shopped around? What's happening? And then
I know about
this because I know everybody was expecting. And then how do you feel about this too? Obviously, because I know everyone was expecting it to obviously come back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it is a little bit hard for me to talk about just because I'm gutted.
Yeah.
I've had shows canceled on me before. I've had pilots not go. It's something that you get used to losing. You just get used to losing massive things, I think, when you work in TV. Like you get used to losing massive opportunities and family structures and like, money. You get used to not ever feeling like you can really relax in your own relevance or like comfort or safety, which is brutal. But this one really got me because this show is important to me for so many reasons. And I think that losing the ability to be with the people that I made this show with in like a familial context every day is it like, even talking about it now, like it inspires actual grief in me. Like I grieve our space together and our town and our, which like I'm sure a lot of people say, but hi, sorry, my cat's providing moral support. But so I'm still kind of working to process. I think I went sort of underground in a way that I don't usually. Must be the Lexapro, but I've just been kind of putting it together in my brain because I'm just so disappointed.
Well,
Um,
it's hard to process because I've interviewed all of you guys, and
mhm.
now I can say that because I was joking with Katie that she was my last one. So I've interviewed all of you guys, and I've gotten really close to you guys, and
Yeah,
you're
we're good
all such
folks.
a great group of people.
Mhm.
So I can understand that it feel like, like when I think when you lose any show, and I'm not an actor, but I would assume when you lose any show, for me as a journalist, I get sad, right? Like when there's shows that
Yeah.
are on for multiple years, I get to know everybody, and
Yeah.
it's like a death, And so for this show, even though it was one season, you guys jive so well together, like just from interviewing everybody and talking and
It's
hearing all the
always been like that.
so I can understand kind of like I don't want to process it. And then now you're like slowly processing it, and it's like grief because it was a family of all of you guys together. Like I completely understand that. And
Very much
completely
so.
get
Well, and we also all like we wrote season two 1,000. Everybody wrote season two 1,000 times over. Like the people who were actually writing season two plotted out season two. The people who don't write season two and just show up with a million dumb things that they're desperate for smart people to write into season two for that. Like we spent all of our time sitting around on set writing fan fiction for each other and like pitching it to Seamus Fahey because he's got the patience of a god. And I'm so desperately in love with everybody that I work with, and so we would just sit around and come up with like beautiful, interesting, cool things that we could do together. And like, I mean, this isn't a hot take, really. I think a lot of people feel this way, but like, I think that this is the first time that I am mourning the actual day to day of being on a show more than I'm mourning the position of safety that being a regular on a show gives you, because it is a massive privilege and it lets you kind of breathe out for a minute about a lot of stuff. And like, I love all of the shows that I've been on. There are shows that I've left that I was gutted to leave, but I think the actual human day to day of like, even when it sucked, even when it was really hard, of being in this family is something that I will miss more than going, okay, I'm on a show, I can chill for a minute, I don't have to audition anymore. Like those perks don't mean as much to me as the people that I love. That sounds kind of cheesy when I say it out loud, but it's true. So this is a new experience
no,
for me also.
it's 100% true. Like even from talking to everybody, like I'm like upset because I was ready to interview everyone, but I kind of
Mhm.
interrupted you in the beginning. But so right now there's like this huge campaign of like save
Yeah.
Wallker independence.
Yeah.
We were we kind of touched on this before, but in terms of what can we do, where can we go, are you hearing anything from Seamus? Are you hearing anything from other castmates? Like, is there hope that this can land on a streaming service? What can fans do? I know that's the first thing they're going to ask me. What can we do? The
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
that hashtag, but it's a weird thing, this industry. So it's like, how do we
I know. I
help?
know.
And like, what do we do if we want it back?
Oh, well, I mean, listen, I've been doing this for a minute, and I no longer really understand. I'm going to be really candid. I no longer understand um, why things, like, I know why things go or don't, but it's based on some pretty what's like a good word? It's based on some things that have
Statistics,
nothing to do
numbers,
with television.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it has like
It's money. I will say it has to do with money. Let's be real. It has to do
capitalism
with
is here to
money.
stay
Yeah.
in a big way. And so, but like you look at there's other shows that people were like, this was my favorite show. Everybody freaked the hell out when it got canceled, and like, why did it never come back? And this other show came back. What the hell's going on? So, I mean, seeing that people after one season love it enough to mobilize the way that they are makes me feel crazy. I forget that anybody sees the things that I do until they tell me that like they were lonely and it helped, or things that actually make a difference on earth, because I think that Hollywood is really good at separating people from what they make and why. Yeah, I mean, all of our higher ups, Seamus does hate me calling them higher up. all of our like moms and dads, are like show moms and dads are like in pretty consistent contact with us. They let us know what's going on. They care about us. They care about how we feel. We're kind of all in it together. So there's been communication, and I mean, I know that we have had the ability to shop it around, because we did have some people who were really pushing for us and who really wanted it to have the opportunity to land somewhere, which is really generous. And I'm glad for it. I have no idea what the landscape of that looks like. I think that it's definitely because the landscape is so sort of tumultuous right now because of the writer's strike, which yes, absolutely. WGA strong. But it just means that for things like this, it's harder to know. It's harder to, you know, I think people forget that TV and entertainment is like this massive capital undertaking at the same time that it is like a bunch of weirdos pretending to be other people in the dust. And sometimes those two sides don't mix very well or mix awkwardly. And so I think that's kind of what we have going on here. But I don't know. That's such an unsatisfying answer.
It's true though, because there's so many aspects to this industry. If you're not from the industry, right? And I would do.
Oh, you'd have no reason to do.
Yeah, you would have no idea. And I feel like as a fan, you get emotionally invested. That's what actors want, right? You want to do a show.
God, yeah.
People are emotionally invested, and they want to see years and years of the show. So I think this happens. Yeah, like you feel lost. So as a fan, I think you do the only thing that you feel like you can do, which is like hit social media, start petitions, do whatever. How far that gets, you never can tell. But it can't hurt. So, obviously it's really nice to see the hashtag Save Wallker Independence. People love you
people
guys.
Caring about it matters. Like people caring about it and being like, hey, what the hell? It never hurts to have, like, I will say that one thing about the way that like network and streaming and platforms have sort of opened up the field is that if something is interesting enough, like it's a little boat now, like it's the little Wallker Independence boat, and it's on its own. So like it is very possible that people go, ooh, blink, right? Like it is its own property still. So interest and enthusiasm and love from people isn't like, I mean, it's valuable anyway in and of itself. It should be the only valuable thing. Because the point of it is to like reach through a TV screen and grab somebody and go, okay, like you come with me now, we're gonna be all right. But I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. I do my job and am not a television executive for a reason, because one, I would suck at it, and two, I would suck at it. So I like anything that people think helps, anything like, I'm not going to be like, yeah, keep on, because I'm not going to like it.
It's like, well, I think for fans,
knowing how it works, but
yeah. And that's what's difficult. So for fans, you don't know what to do. So I think them doing that, campaigns and things like that, it doesn't hurt.
No, not at all.
It brings conversation, right? It brings people looking. I think it helps the ship in terms of, hey, there's an audience, there are people here, totally. It's worth your return, because in this business, unfortunately, like you said, it should solely be based on the love of the fans, right? The love of what we like to watch. Unfortunately, it's based on money. I'm just, I'm like you, I'm just straight up. It's based on money. How much can they make on advertisements? Where can they cut corners? How cheap can they get actors? Like all of that shit. So because of that, I think a lot of times they want their rate of return, the ROI, right? Like they're on their investment. What are we getting back? And if they don't feel like they're getting enough back, show gets canceled. That's basically how it happens. But for streaming services, which is new and something, again, I've been covering shows for a long time. You've been on shows for a long time. We didn't have this ability to kind of shop it around before. It was canceled. It was dead. It was gone. One day you were watching it. The next day it was off the air. And you were like,
you're not. Yeah.
So that gives, I think, people hope. And hopefully you guys as actors hope that a streamer might come along and go, you know what? There's so many fans. We make X amount of money. Their money system. And again, it's all very confusing, but their money system's a little different because it's based a little more on subscribers, a little less. There's no advertiser, like it's a little different. That there might be hope that they go, you know what? It's worth it. We're going to get, hundreds of subscribers. It's going to be worth our investment of buying the show. So the hope is someone Netflix Prime, anyone hear me?
Yeah, no kidding. We're nice people. We work real hard. We're all very good looking. Like, just, I think the thing that I always want people to know is that, like, we feel the way that you feel. we feel the way that you feel. We're gutted, we're disappointed, we're confused. We didn't have some cool inside track to knowing what was going on. We love you. We love that you love us. We're happy that you're happy. We are fine to like work hard and make a thing for you because we want you to be happy.
Right.
You know, like we're not as different as I think that people think that we are.
Well, this group, and I will say this, I've interviewed a lot of people. This group in particular is very different. You guys are
really
very
good, right?
oriented. You guys are all crazy in such a good way. I love all of you. All crazy in a good way. And everyone knows I talk to all of you still. Every single person related to Wallker Independence. I'm like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Checking it. I'm obsessed with all of you guys. So that's very different. And I talk, you know, after years, like I do talk to like a lot of people and they'll hear me on the podcast or someone will come on and go, oh, we talk all the time. This group was very different. Even my first go around of interviewing, it was like, here's my number, like when we're done recording. And everyone's like, talking to me, and we're like, we should start a group chat, by the way. But I know you guys, I think you guys have one, but we should start
like
separately messaging everybody to like check in. But that's very odd. And so that's what I want people to really understand too. Like, so when you're thinking about Wallker Independence, and I know how much you love the show, and if you're a fan of it and you're tweeting and you're doing all the things that you're doing, keep doing that if that's what feels good in your soul. And I think it will help. And if anything, it manifests something great.
Yeah.
At bare minimum, it's showing a really, really good set of people that people love you, which I think you guys deserve, because
thanks.
There's so many times where I do interviews where I have to like do the bullshit of an interview.
Like, it's
great. Like, you know, right. Where you have to do that. This is not that scenario. So I just want to be like clear. Katie get like, and unfortunately I told Katie this, she's the last one. So she gets like the brunt. She's the first one I have to talk to about it being canceled. So get the
that is okay. I can't take it. I can take it.
I'll take it. But I think, you know, it's very important to mention that this is not a typical type of group. So I just wanted to be very clear. This group is very adamant, very vocal, very friendly. I talk to almost everybody, and it's just different and special. So for anyone listening, like Vernon at Amazon, I can say that because Vernon, I know you listed here. So Vernon at Amazon or Jeff at Stars or whoever, y'all follow me, get them on your freaking network.
We're real nice people. I swear to God, we're real nice people, and we're also a bunch of people. I'm not even including myself in this. Like, we got a bunch of people who deserve to be on TV a lot more than they have, and who deserve to be compensated and centered and given agency and voice and fucking money for who they are and what they bring to the table in a way that is so massive. And like one of my greatest grief points, one of my greatest grief batons that I have to pass to somebody about this is that they now have to go and find somewhere else to be.
Yeah,
like. Yeah, I don't know. We actually do. So on group chats, we actually do have a bunch of group chats. And I'm really proud that I named our like original one that didn't have any like moms or dads in it, as the grown-ups aren't in this one. So now the group chat that is just the cast is the grown-ups aren't in this one. And then I would also like, I would go to text whatever combination, like some random ass combination of people, like Lawrence and Greg are off work today. And I want to ask them if they'll go do this thing with me. And then it'll turn out that that combination of people is already in my phone as a group chat. I just forgot because it was from 2 months ago. And it's called something incredibly stupid. And I don't know why. Like every combination of people has a group chat on my phone named after an equally stupid thing, which is not a particularly hot take. It's when you go to summer camp with a bunch of people and then you have all these stories you think are just about you and like everyone will find them interesting. And then when you say them out loud, you're like,
no, like not everyone. I love that. And I told Philly, I'm like, I need in on a chat. So we'll have to make another chat. I'll let you name it because you'll probably come up with a better name than me. But
my job.
But yeah, I love you guys. So I have to keep in contact with everyone. But yeah, so hopefully the plan obviously is to get you guys somewhere, hopefully. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. But I just want to because this cast is very special. It's not normal. It's very not normal. I just want to reiterate how not normal this is.
I know.
So
I know.
don't understand how
I'm gutted by about this cancellation are like not anything I've ever experienced before. I have never like I don't know if everybody else knows. Well, you probably did because you talked to Matt Barr, but like Matt Barr got married in Mexico. And to a beautiful woman who I'm in love with. And
I was so jealous, by the way, that I couldn't crash that.
It was so fun.
Oh,
So,
so jealous. I'm so jealous. But yes, he got married.
um,
He posted, and it's okay to say that because he posted on Instagram and all that stuff. So
yeah.
everybody's
Oh yeah.
happy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I don't want to like blow up his personal life, but he's like incredibly proud of his beautiful partner. So I don't know why I would. But I just remember like I'm not a big tropical locale person. Like, look at me. I'm built to be like
Air
scuttling
conditioning.
around. I don't know. I'm built to for like inside or for like reasonable temperatures. I'm just not, it's not my thing. Um, and like, you know, travel makes me a little anxious sometimes. And I'm just like, I don't know, I'm a little bit of a dormouse. And the minute I got there, like the second I touched ground with any of my people, I felt completely safe. I felt complete, like anything could have happened to me. And I would have been like, this is fine. I'll be fine. Someone's here. Like if I had gotten massively sick, if I had, there was no world, like Philly and I hand things back and forth without looking at each other. Like we've been married for 20 years. Like there's such a gentleness and an ease. And like, if someone gets wicked drunk and kind of wants to be a little nuts, everybody can handle it. There's no, like, it's gentle and storied. Like we really, really understand each other. And none of it is like, oh my God. Like it's so low key and familial and like, fuck you, take my shoes. Fuck you, take my shoes. Would you just, like, it's so easy.
Yeah.
The sentence is getting out of control, but I really noticed it when I was there because I was like, oh, right, it's not just being at work. It's that like I accidentally stumbled into
Well,
just like a really beautiful
you
group of
can
people.
tell too because so I wanted to crash the wedding. Matt said that I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was a little upset about
Right.
that. So I'll take it up with him. It was planned before we started talking, so it's okay.
Take it up with Bar.
Yeah. But I saw photos and you can see through the photo. I mean, like you can,
Yeah.
everyone's beaming. And of course I was like, Philly, how, and he's like, we were dancing, we were doing, and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
so too. I'm like, I am like a sweaty, disgusting mess, like in heat. So like, not really my ideal.
No.
Also like, a little curvy. So I can imagine like everybody in their cute little bathing suit. And I would be like, ah. So yeah,
You
go to.
would be the best one. You mean you would be the best one in a bathing suit because people should be graced by your fabulous self in a bathing suit on the
Well,
fucking
that's
beach.
why I need you around me all the time, which I told you why we're best friends now. But
Listen, I'm just here to report the truth to the people. I don't know what you want from me.
but yeah, so it's not like my go-to, the hair, the whole, like all the extra
Oh
shit
yeah.
you have to do that you
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
want to do, you have to do when it's hot. So like not my go-to. I'm sitting in air conditioning and we were just talking about this, how like hot it is in life. And it's like not that hot right now and I have air conditioning on. So that just shows you
yeah.
I'm an indoor, I'm like you. I'm indoor. I like to
Indoor
just, and I also get anxiety. I hate flying. I get very anxious. I take something when I fly because, like, if I don't, I'd rather just like wake up and be there. So, like, I'll take whatever.
Yeah.
I'll stay up late. Well, that sounded bad. I'll take prescribed.
No, I get it. I get it. I
Yeah,
sometimes take whatever.
Yeah, I'll take, yeah. If I was sitting next to you and you were like, here's, I'd be like, sure, whatever. Like, I
Like,
trust.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have like lesser known fact about me. I have massive, crazy inner ear equilibrium problems.
Oh my God.
So I can't drive a car. And I out of nowhere will become like so sick you can't even believe it. And it affects almost every part of my life. So like if something will make it stop, I will take it. I have no pride. I'm like, fine, that's fine. I can guarantee you I've tried every single thing. Everyone's got some new thing. I'm like, I've tried it. This is just how I'm wired. But like also going to a hot place on a plane, Mexico, sometimes that means boats. Sometimes that means boat events. Sometimes that, right? And I'm like, the fact that I just showed up and was like, okay, if I'm going to die, I guess I'll do it for Matt Barr. Like if I'm going to go into shock and have my hand a dead fucking spider, I'll do it for Matt Barr and no one else. Like
You're
that should give you
the same. I swear to God. Okay, so first of all, and I don't know if I've ever said this on the podcast, but I have fibromyalgia. So you never know when I'm gonna flare. Like, right now I feel good. But I'm like you. Like, so if it flares, I'll fucking take whatever. Like, I'm like, yep.
Yeah,
I don't care. Like, what is it? Okay, cool. Will it help? But I have severe anxiety flying. So I'll take a Xanax like before I fly. I'm very open about it. I don't care. It's I have anxiety. It's a mental health issue. I'm very open about it. I'm very free about talking about it. And so I'll take it, and it's great because a lot of times I sleep and like I'll just wake up and it's like, welcome to Loser, and I'm like, oh great, like I missed the whole thing. It's super. That's like the best. Like I feel like when you wake up, you're like, yes, like you just missed the whole thing. I remember one time I was on a flight and the guy was like, I woke up and they were like, yeah, we're about to land, and the guy next to me went, you were so lucky. I'm so jealous. And I was like, why? He's like, because for the past 45 minutes we've been circling. And I was like, oh Jesus.
And you're like, I slept through the whole thing.
Yeah, I slept through the whole thing. I was like, I would have had a freaking panic attack, like being stuck, like circling. And he was like, I was so jealous. He's like, you were snoring, you were just like sleeping on the side.
So happy, blissful.
But I'm like you. So like if I did go, which, you know, again, I'll take up my gripe with Matt, but if I did go, yeah, boats, like that's another thing. Like I would probably take something because I get scared. Like I think it's more of like, I think it's more of my brain because I don't think I would really, I've never gotten sick on a ship. I've never like felt sick, but I think I have this fear of that happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause then you're trapped in your body and you can't get out.
Yeah. And like, and then also like on a boat, you can't like leave. So like if I was sick, like you don't want to be like you don't want to be that one that's like sick by themselves, like that. And then you're stuck for a couple hours. So yeah. So I probably would have been like, I have a pill, like I have whatever I need. But
always me. I had to tell them on set, thank God for Laura Terry, our producer, because day one, I was like, all right, listen, this is going to sound nuts. No one has ever been able to find a name for it. I don't have Meniere's disease. I had an ear, nose, and throat specialist tell me I'm more sound sensitive and motion sensitive than 98% of the population. That sounds like a pretend thing. It's not. I swear to God. I have to be in the front seat of the vans, and I have to try and minimize my van. I was like, I can't, because I don't know if people know this, but like there are a couple different gates that we like, well, gates, like there's a couple different centers of where we shoot on Bonanza. And it's like the roads are kind of Pirates of the Caribbean, like the, you know.
Right. And as an actor, you get, so like for people that don't know, you get driven. Like, so like a
yeah, they shuttle you around like a FedEx package. Yeah. They shuttle you around like a FedEx package. I think that the biggest misconception is that it's because we're special or we think we're someone. It's not.
No, it's more like insurance reason. Yeah, it's insurance reason.
We're insured and we cost money if they lose us. And sometimes we're distractible or stupid. So if I leave and wander off to do something and they lose me, right?
Yeah, so it's more like, in reality too, it's also like to prevent, like, again, it's funny that people do think that it's like this like luxurious thing, because in reality, when you really cut down deep, it's because they don't want to waste money. They want to make sure that you're where you're supposed to be on time, because if you're not, it's wasting people's money. And it's not like that an actor wouldn't want to be on time, but something could happen if you're driving your own car, like the wheel, this, that, the other thing. When you hire a company that's hired, it's kind of a little more handled.
Also, I really do believe that working on a set, unless you have so much money, oh my God, like unless you have the gross national product of like a really well-to-do small country, like the system, the capital system of set is often a bunch of really great people who are good at their jobs, working as hard and fast as they possibly can until they burn out at different times and have to start asking for more space and more time. And everybody else wants them to have more space and more time, and they can't.
Yeah.
So it's everyone working within a system that won't actually let anybody calm down, or like it's not conducive to people being friends, to people doing well, to people being well. And people still do it because they're amazing. Like I remember we had a couple of short episodes. And I don't know, I don't think like if you don't work in TV, it's hard to know how quick a 6.5 day episode is. On a period piece, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
And the real struggle is that like people make mistakes. There are people that are working with like massive equipment that could take your leg off. There are people working on other people's bodies, with other people's bodies. We have to work, like there are people that are running themselves into the ground. Hi. And so every once in a while, someone burns out and has to be like, I if I don't have a minute, I'm going to freak the hell out. Like I need to sit down. I need a snack. I need 2 fucking seconds. And so I think that what people don't realize is that a lot of the systems that make us look like, well, we're so important. Oh, somebody picks you up, somebody gets you a drink. It's not that the person who's getting me a drink thinks I'm so cool, they have to get me a drink. And it's not that I'm so cool, I don't have to get my own drink. It's that if I leave to get a drink for 5 minutes and they need me, that person gets yelled at by somebody. So it's better for them if I stay in my fucking chair and don't wander around like a toddler, which I do, so that they can get me my drink, so that I stay alive and so that they stay alive and so that we get out of there, because everybody has a family and wants to go to bed.
Right.
But that's like the most unglamorous continuum of, I can tell you more interesting things. This is just the most boring shit.
No, but I think it's important because, you
people know though.
Yeah. And that's why I explain a lot. Like even during when we were waiting for renewals and things, people didn't understand like first position. So like I try to start explaining what all of that stuff means, because, some of the actors on the show had said, I have been turning things down because I really love this show and I really, and so people were confused. So then I would interrupt and say the reason they're turning it down is because when you're on first position and trying to explain. So I think it's important because I don't think entertainment, I hate using entertainment journalists, but I don't think entertainment journalists or journalists explain. And I think like without somebody talking about it, so like I'm very vocal about it because I've been on sets. Without people talking about it, they just won't know. So I kind of in the whole like first position. Look,
she was cleaning me, but as soon as I moved, she stopped because she knew. Hi,
she's like, I'm on camera.
She's just a baby. She's like,
she's so adorable. I explained like, the first position and we kind of went over the whole situation because again, it's just things that people don't know. But you were saying, which I like rudely interrupted, but you were saying about the car because I do the same thing. I can't sit. Again, I don't know if it's like just a mental thing for me, like, but I can't sit in the back. I like to sit in the front with the window cracked open a little. Like I'm very like so. But you were saying with your situation, which that's hard too, because I went through the same thing you went through, where people were telling me I was crazy because with fibromyalgia,
doctors tell me I'm crazy.
Yes, I went through like
I'm going to amend this. Male doctors told me I was crazy. Male doctors said, anxiety's nuts. I don't know what to tell you. The first time I got a femme GP, she was like, that's really crazy. That sounds like a shock response. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, if you hit someone in the head with a frying pan, the way that you check if they have like one of the signs of brain damage, like an immediate brain injury, is if your hand seizes because it's a shock response. So it tells us something. She's like, clearly you don't have a brain injury because it's the timing matters.
Right.
But like what you say happens to your body when this gets really, really bad is that you're going into a partial shock response. And I will also say that your experience of anxiety with it is so valid because I got sick as a kid all the time in the car, but it was different. It was like I would throw up or the world would be spinning, or it was like very classic motion sickness. It was awful. Which I think is explained by me being hyper emotion and sound sensitive. Like I'm like Daredevil, except shitty.
No, you're Daredevil except really cool. You don't give
yourself if everything Daredevil had going on made him less helpful to other people instead of more. That's my ass.
You're so crazy because if I met you, I would feel like she's too cool for me. Like I feel like if we were in school together, I would be like, she's too cool for me. Like I'd be scared to like go up to you and be friends with you.
No. I'm on a Lexapro and a Vyvanse to get me like out the door to talk to humans. It is you are good.
You're way cooler than you think you are. Trust me.
No one is better than me, baby. But then when I was 16, my family had a rollover in a car, like quite a bad one that totaled the car. No one in my family drives now. It was like massively traumatizing. Everybody was okay, but it was like a big deal. And after that, I started having this shock response as well as my normal thing. So it just kind of that hypersensitivity to emotion that I had that it sounds like you don't have was married to this anxiety shock response of, and I'm going to die. And I've never been able to uncouple it. But that part really kicked it into high gear. So what's going on with you is 100% real. It's not just like in your head because it amended the thing that was already happening to me. And I can't drive a car. Yeah. Even when I do drive, it's up on me.
Interesting. It's very interesting. For when you said that about males, when I started thinking back, it was true. It was all male doctors until I saw a rheumatologist that was a woman. And she was like, what's going on? And I explained it. And again, nothing against I'm sure there's many great male doctors, but it was just not my scenario. When I met with her, she was like, no, something's wrong. And then when I started telling her, I actually got into a car accident. I was driving, avoiding a drunk driver and drove into the woods, totaled the car. So she, right away, like, and she asked me, like, no other doctor had asked me, like, did you get anything? Did anything happen? And she said, that can spark something. And she's like, how old are you? I said, I'm in my 30s. And she was like, that could spark something. And how long ago was it? And I said, I was 26 when it happened. So she started doing like a couple things and pressing on me and stuff. And then right away, she was like, we're going to test you. I got tested for everything. I thought I had cancer. Like, we just didn't know what it was. I got tested for everything. And then she was like, it's fibromyalgia. And I was like, okay, cool. What is that? And what do I do? And then she's like, there's no solution. I have a friend with we can, help you with X, Y, and Z. And that's what she did. But you have that mix. And I will say this, you have that mixed with anxiety. But on top of that, I had a really bad flare up, which I'm sure you've experienced flare ups. Then you get this like weird PTSD thing. So then I get scared where if I'm out and I'm walking or doing something, I go, oh my God, if I step one wrong way, like, is this going to cause something? Because it was so bad. And it's like one of those things like you just have to like live with. But I
Yeah.
told you, like, while we're talking about this, and I swear we will talk about the show, but I told Philly, like, I would love to do like a mental health,
Oh
like,
yeah.
and we talked about it together because we were saying, because there's just so much to like discuss, and nobody talks about it. And I'm like an open book. Like, I will tell you everything and anything, and I'm not shy about it at all.
Yeah.
Because when it started, I've had it as long as I can remember. And I hit it. I don't know if I necessarily hit it, but I didn't know what it was. And I didn't say anything. And when I was 17 and in college my freshman year, I wasn't leaving my dorm room. Like it slowly started happening. Like it wasn't right away, but over time my roommate was like, something's weird, like you're skipping too many classes. So I remember the mental health building was like right across from where we lived. And I like ran because back then it was like mental health, you were crazy, like something was wrong with you. For being like ashamed and like embarrassed that I had to go to this place. And I ran there and like talked to them. And right away she was like, oh no, you have like severe anxiety and like you have this and that. And then like, we started talking and I did like therapy, and I believe in all of that stuff and it really helps. So if anyone's listening, if you're doubting it, like, at least try it. But
It's
or
unbelievable.
it's so much stuff. But
Like,
talking to you, I'm gonna text Philly when we're done and be like, we have to do that mental health thing if you want to join, because I just think it's important to talk about it and like hearing all the stuff that you're going through, because I think people think Hollywood is so glamorous, and then with stuff with me, like things will come out, or like I just had an article come out about like a job or whatever, and everyone's like, oh my God, this is so amazing and it must be so great because you get to go to all these things, and I'm like, yeah, it's listen, I'm not complaining about my job, I love my job, it's just there's a lot more to it. Like you're seeing the video portion, right? Like you're not seeing the guy that hit me in the head on the red carpet, and like the person that's pushing me over, or the 8 hours I waited, or like, you know what I mean? And it's the same thing with you guys. We're not seeing the 18 hours of your work. We're seeing like 30 seconds they pulled from that 18 hours into a show and whatnot. Like you don't get to see all of that stuff. So I'm very open about talking about it for people. Just
I also think that Hollywood, like, first of all, like Hollywood, who the fuck am I? I don't get to talk about Hollywood. I'm nobody. But also the parts of Hollywood that I've been in, like, I think that people confuse glamorous with privileged.
yes.
Hollywood is privileged. And then there are some ways in which you are gifted suddenly with so much privilege that feels completely unearned, that it blows you away and makes you way more susceptible to other things. Or you're someone who is not often gifted privilege and you feel like you've somehow like worked your fucking ass off to get it after being ignored or not hired because of many different things that are like inherent to the system. And then you hold on to it because you deserve it and you're afraid that there are not other places that it will come from, and then you put yourself in situations where it is easier to abuse you because it's hard to let go of someone giving you means when really no one should have to give you means. You should be on a level playing field. But like,
it's like that imposter syndrome. And then if you get a good paying job, you're like, oh my God, I need to hold on to it. But then I think you settle too, because then if that job, especially as an actor, if that job is taken away and another job is offered, and you have this instability and you are anxious and you're worried and you're working out and you got to pay your bills, you might go, I'll settle for this job that you hate because you got to pay your bills just like the rest of us. You know what I mean? So it's like this weird thing. And I think it's interesting that so many people for so many years just ignore it. So I'm a big advocate on talking about it because it's just a part of life. Like it's part of every job. And there should be nobody that's feeling like, oh, this is so glamorous and they're so amazing. And like, we're all working, we're all doing things, and for pay, especially in particular, that comes up a lot because they're like, oh, actors get paid so much. I'm like, yeah, but if you were on set every day and you really saw like the amount of stuff that they were doing and the hours and the amount, like what they're putting them in, and like, and even the extra hours of like fittings and like the hair and all the stuff that's not even, the camera's not even rolling yet, like then you have to take a second to be like, isn't that worth it? And most of the time it's worth more than what they're even getting. So it's like, you don't really understand until you're kind of there breaking all of it down. For sure.
I think I have really complex opinions on this because I think that capitalism, first of all, it benefits the system for people to feel, I'm going to like go super out of pocket here. I don't know if it's true. I think that it benefits the system of control for people to feel separated from their storytellers and their artists. And a really good way to do that is to convince people that there are kinds of art that are not worth a lot of money, and that there are kinds of art that are worth a lot of money, but also that the people who make the art that we've decided for some reason is worth a lot of money aren't like you. They're different, they're special, they're rich. Ooh, and because they're rich, they're virtuous, and they're always having a great time. We need to give you someone to hate. We need to give you someone to talk about. We need to give you someone to idolize. You need to have parasocial relationships with people so that you build less community. You need to whatever, like it. And then also it's so inherent to capitalism that someone would be making an amount of money per episode that would like completely change someone else's life.
Right.
But then that person at the same time, if you ask them maybe what they would prefer or why they started to feel the need to up their quote and get more, and like, where does the panic about security come from? It's so capitalism to overpay someone and have them feel the entire time that they are never safe, that they are never actually compensated properly, that they're, and then once they get safe, the system really works on them to forget what it felt like to not be safe so that they don't redistribute.
Yeah.
Like it's and it works on me. I get it. Capital melts your brain. Like when I booked Carrie Diaries, I remember going and I was like, I was a waitress and then suddenly I was on national television. And like, and I loved those people. I liked being on that show. I felt incredibly lucky. Like they're sweet, excellent human beings. But I can remember like sometimes not cast members or like people on the show, but like there were people in the periphery that would make fun of me and they'd be like, honey, you're on TV now. You don't have to dress like that. Or like, do they let you eat? Are you allowed to eat? Like my little 21-year-old body was like changing. And like, I have never been a size in my life that didn't garner extreme privilege. And even then there were people going like, oh, honey, are you really going to eat that? Or people well-intentioned being like, so do they pay attention to your diet or what? Immediately trying to like slowly, not trying to, but like unknowingly slowly separating me from whoever I was before. Right. You know, all of a sudden a $2,500 bag is the thing that I need to have to not get made fun of for not dressing like I'm on TV, whatever the hell that means. And I know it was the early aughts, so it was different, but like,
no, but you're right. You're absolutely,
really
you're 100% right.
Like,
no, but you're 100% right. And like, and I never thought about it that way too, is like the never enough thing, because you do get to that point where you're safe and you get paid more money and you feel a certain way until you don't. And then when you don't, and it's like a cycle, and it's like a perpetual cycle. And it's just a very interesting, weird industry, which is why, good segue back, which is why
I'm trying to get us back there. I'm so sorry.
No, but it's good, which is why it's interesting and why I keep saying that this show is so different and so special, because I feel like while all of that matters, right? You guys should be getting paid probably more than you're getting paid. You guys should be getting a lot more things than you're probably getting, but you're still producing a product, and there was still a family, and there were still all these things there that made it so amazing. So like,
it's the only thing that matters.
Right.
The only thing that matters. And I mean, maybe it's just because we're living in end times and I am a parent. Maybe it's because we're living in end times. Oh, you're not going to stay like this, but you could pretend that you love me for the people watching the podcast for a minute. But I just, something about this show, I told this to you before we started recording, but like the way the show was sold to me was someone I really trust, Larry Tang, who I trust to the ends of the earth, who I'd worked with on Nancy Drew for a bit, called me and basically said, listen, like, I know there's some things about this that might make you nervous. I know that it's like launching into a bunch of intersectional conversations that are hard to have on TV. I know that there's a world in which like that is hard to do right. And the idea of signing on to something and then doing it wrong is really scary. The thing that I can promise you about this is that this is the nicest group of people I've ever seen. And people say that a lot, I think, especially in this industry, because everyone is like emotionally starved and working from scarcity a lot. And if they're not working from financial scarcity, they're working from like emotional scarcity. But I believed him because I love the shit out of him. And I was like, all right, dude. And I really did. I just blindfolded and I jumped in. And like, I asked a bunch of questions, and there was some points that I needed to know, how every person of color that was hired felt about being hired, felt about the script, felt about the, right. Like I sat down with Seamus Fahey. He gave me way too much of his time and patience. and continues to give me too much of his time and patience, and I have to buy him a hot air balloon one day, because I'll never be able to make it up to him. But and like Laura Terry, angel, patron saint angel of network television. But he was right. Like I've worked on shows. I love everybody that I've worked with. I have families that I was gutted to leave. But the only thing that matters is that we are a bunch of like soft human people feeling a bunch of really weird, gigantic feelings that like aren't pretend a lot of the time. And then someone else really sort of carefully makes them into a thing that we then send to you, and you feel a thing, and you feel less alone in the world, and you feel like you're watching real people feel real things, which is true. And then you're hoping that in the off time, they like give each other piggyback rides and like pants each other in the street. And that is true. And I have that picture of Greg and I, if anybody wants to see it.
Oh,
but yeah,
we'll be glad to take that exclusive.
Yeah, it is one of my favorite pictures of Greg and I didn't pull his pants down, but he was giving me a piggyback ride, and for some reason his belt didn't happen anymore, and then his pants started falling down as he was giving me a piggyback ride, and he refused to stop. And I do have like I think it's on my Instagram actually. There's the most joyful picture of me laughing on someone's back in a ball cap.
Oh my God, we'll have to
can't tell that he has no pants on. Fully has no pants on.
Well, so you were concerned. You had your concerns for the show, right?
Yeah.
So what made you decide? Well, I guess you kind of said it. You were kind of like convinced from people that you trusted to like start. But for Kate, how did she change from when you, and I asked everybody this because it's very interesting. How did she change from like the day that you got her and was reading her and picturing her in your brain to the final episode?
I'm gonna try and organize my thoughts well on this because I have so much to say, because Kate Carver is my personal hero. So I'm a non-binary person, and I kind of came to that understanding. I think I always have been, but I came to that understanding a little later in life than I think a lot of people do. I was always queer, but I didn't really know why certain things felt uncomfortable or wrong to me, and I had the privilege of being safe enough to come to it late. But I still have a habit, especially because of TV, of reading characters as a woman that I think someone else wants. And she is always not me. The things that are special or alluring about her have nothing to do with me. It feels like I have to put them on. It feels like I have to fake them. And it's always been that way. If you watch earlier stuff of mine, there's like a voice that isn't my voice, that I didn't know wasn't my voice until I settled in a little bit. But I have like this higher kind of fawning, because I was like, yeah, women on television, which is not true. So I did the same thing with Kate. Like when I first read it, I thought, okay, they're probably going to ask me to read for this because she's like kitschy and sarcastic and fun and quick and a little weird. And that tends to be like my wheelhouse when it comes to things that I play, which is great. And I'm grateful for it. But I was having so much trouble cracking what they wanted, because I remember Seamus and Larry both said, with like so much hope, and I was so afraid I wouldn't be able to deliver, they were like, no, she makes everything better. She's supposed to come in and make everything better. Every room she's in is supposed to be better because she's in there. She makes everything delicious. She makes everything fun. She makes everything ballsy. She made like, and I was like, oh, cool, chill. So like, no, not a tall order, no big, really glad, like, sorry. And I think that what really changed for me was Seamus sat down with me for, again, like an unreasonably long period of time for someone running a show who also has a whole ass child and a spouse and a life. And just said, what do you want for this person? What do you want them to be? What stories are you exhausted of hearing? What stories do you want to tell? What's important to you? What are your value systems? Like, I can't tell you, running a show is incredibly stressful. There's 900 voices in your ear all the time. Sometimes there are things you just can't do. But he was like, I want the raw material of who you are and what makes you happy. And by the way, he did this for everybody. He sat down with everybody, which is so luxurious. I want to weep. And he said, just so you know, like, Kate was meant to be queer before we hired you. We already wanted, like, we've been thinking about it. It's on the, this isn't like an abrupt turn for a pat on the back just because you happen to be. This was in the cards. This was the point. Hi. And so I had like a really candid conversation with him about my gender and about kind of where I was at, because it was new enough that I still felt kind of crazy saying it to people. And, like, he held my hand while I cried on a picnic bench next to like a coffee shop in the Santa Fe Railroad. And yeah, I said, I wonder what genderqueer people were like on the frontier, because I know they were there. And the research I ended up doing, I don't want to say it blew my mind, because that is like so silly for a person to say, oh, I had no idea that this entire beautiful like constellation of human beings existed at different times. Of course they did. There's always been, but that research really settled me into me in a way that I hadn't found yet. So I think that the major thing that changed about Kate was that instead of coming at feminists and like from me putting on a woman that I don't feel like ever, and like kitschy, well, let me tell you something, honey, I'm gonna blah, 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 and I'll talk about sex because I'm the cool one, because I'm tall and dark haired. And we all know that the tall, dark haired ladies are the ones that talk about sex, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes they die, blah, blah. And then she went from being that to being like a really tired guy sometimes, right? Like I was like, she like,
I would say I feel like you went from, I think this is fair to say, hopefully, that I went from kind of like too girly, which into more of a badass. That's how I of her change, because it and I didn't feel it matched. Like even like the character, like I was like, but wouldn't she be like so like I just felt like she would be very different, like at given the time, given where she's working, and it morphed into where she was like, "You're not doing that. I'm taking over. I'm doing this," and then I was like, "That's it. That's like where I see, and that's what I saw originally." So like I feel like that's what kind of happened. So I would call it more of like a badass. Like you could say it manly if that's what like.
You know what? Actually, no. Yeah, I really want to amend my language, because that was the most binary shit I've ever said. But like, it's not that it's that I actually just let myself be myself in space,
and that's what. And that change I saw, like, and you can see it, and like, it's something I can't explain to you how beautiful it is, but like, it was like this moment, and I don't remember which episode it was, but it was so, and again, I watch it differently than maybe like the average watcher that might like, just watch it for entertainment. Like I watch it for entertainment, but I also watch it because I'm like, oh, I interview these people, right? So I was watching it, and I think it was a couple episodes. It was about midway, I would say. About, yes, I maybe like I was gonna say 4 or 5. Whereas like midway when I went, something's different. And then I was like, and I like it. Like it was like, it wasn't like a bad change.
Actually, I have a gay reason for this that I love, because Kate is my favorite.
I love it.
So like, and people ask me, they're like, is Kate a lesbian? Is Kate queer? Is Kate genderqueer? And I mean, we're still kind of working on it, because I never wanted me to bleed into it. So I was never like, just because I'm genderqueer doesn't mean Kate has to be. Like, I'm over fucking joyed to play a lesbian on TV. Are you kidding me? Give it to me always, even though in real life I'm terrified of femme lesbians. By the way, if you're a femme lesbian, just tell me I'm doing okay. Just give me like a little smile or a little something. Like, I'm terrified of you, and I think you're beautiful, and I love you, and I don't know how to talk to you. So
she's saying hit her up, give her some
hit me up. Like, I don't need you to take me out or anything, but I just I'm so in love with all of you, and I have like the emotional management skills of a 14-year-old boy, because you're so fine. So just if
someone is into you, and I'm sure they're going to hear this, and they're going to be like, shit, should I slide into like the DMs? Slide in.
No, I mean, yeah. Don't expect anything from it besides my like overwhelming and constant gratitude and awe of the fact that you live on the planet. I can't even imagine. But so I didn't want to like force any moves on Kate necessarily, but so I love this backstory so much. I want more of my show. So we had, I know there's a fast flashback in our we have an episode that's all flashbacks, episode 12. And there's a flashback where you see Kate in her old job in Baltimore, on protection detail for a politician and his wife. And you see the wife stop to talk to Kate in kind of a gentle, sort of quiet, intimate moment, and it lingers a little bit. And she is killed, this woman. This is a spoiler. Sorry, spoilers. And regardless of what the full landscape of that was, it got seeded in later that the reason that Kate ended up in Independence in the first place independence, as opposed to just being sidelined to some like, you know, outpost somewhere where the railroad was coming through that wasn't independence, was because she said someone had talked to her about Hagen's and some times that they had there, and that maybe someone like her would be well suited to being there, and like, you know, queer coding, queer support systems.
A safe place to be.
Yeah. And also this woman that is dancing through this scene is this like high femme, bubbly, beautiful, charming, like silly, taking drinks off of people and like laughing and touching everybody all the time. And Kate obviously is so enchanted by this, and the Kate that we see is very much not like that. And so I like the idea of, in her grief, because like her job is fucked and she's lost this person, whoever this person was, to her. And so that in her grief, she is like wandered out into the middle of the desert, exiled to an outpost, and that she picked this one because she had nothing left to hold on to. And then the person she decided could fit in and give her shelter the best, like the person to assume, is this person that she lost, that is so different from her, that is femme in a way that is so different from her, that she is just enchanted by and in love with. And so this person that Kate starts out as, this like the way she talks to Kai until she and Kai have like a reckoning, this like warm, easy, because that constant availability and affection is also a way to keep people far away. You know, it's a soft power move. Femmes at that time, it's not like they could be like, hey, fuck you, and have nothing bad happen to them. Really bad things could happen to them. So this kind of, you know, light, easy, crisp, like the first bite of an apple kind of, why the hell would you pick a fight with me? What a ridiculous thing to do. Get the hell out of here. Oh, honey, kind of person is like her working through the grief of a loss, and then also kind of keeping everybody far away from her shit. And this like kind of slouchy, exhausted, like little femme, little whatever person is who she actually was at home this whole time. We just never saw them until we did. And until everybody knew, so she didn't have to pretend anymore. So I tried to like drop it slowly. 100%, there were a couple times where I did not drop it slowly, and I was just fucking tired of being in a corset. And so I stood like I wished for death, which is true. But I think that was a really long-winded explanation. But I think that's actually the change, is that I figured her out about halfway through the season. And I was like, I love being this person. I would be this person forever. And I feel so much compassion for her, and I want her to be well and loved and kissed by many beautiful women.
And you know, obviously I love her, and we're running out of time because I know you have to go somewhere, but
no, I talked about capitalism for a hot minute, so we can let's pack some extra time on this, because that was unfair.
So I want to talk about, I asked you this kind of before we were recording, but you answered the fact that yes, it wasn't written into the story for story's sake. It was in the story already. And I love the transition. I noticed the transition like kind of right off the bat, and I loved what you settled into, like, because it just, I don't know, I can't explain it. It's probably like the same reason how you probably can't explain it. It's like I just saw it, and then I went, oh, there she is, and like I just felt like I saw you, and I felt like I saw her, and like it was just a difference. I don't know. And if you're listening to this and you're like, what the hell is she talking about, rewatch the show. And I'm telling you, if you watch the first few episodes and then you watch like 4 or 5, you'll start going, oh, I get it. Like there's differences, there's things, the way you hold yourself, outfits, the way you talk, like there's just things that you can tell that are just different, and feel that they make more sense. So, and because they make more sense, the first few I go, ooh, like that's not her. Like,
I know when you go back, you're kind of like, who's this
like
lady? Who's like not the lady. Yeah. Well, I feel very validated that it read to you. I struggled with it a bit. Like as an actor, I was kind of like, I don't know how to make this person the best person in every room. And I think I started out doing it by like assuming a different, and it's not like, which is not to say that I'm not femme, like I am. But I just assumed a kind of femme that has never really been me, but I can play it well sometimes. And I think that I realized that to do right by her, I needed to settle in differently. And also, like, I like the idea of independence. We talk about this a lot as a cast, like the idea that independence is a place that is so far off the beaten path and is so outside of like centralized social control.
Right.
Like there's no society, there's no police, there's no, right, like there's no societal
expectation, no like major class system. And these are all things that I liked. There was no major class system. There was no explanation like for, for Justin's character, we were like, in particular, like for Killian, there was no let's
The
explain.
love of my life, Justin Johnson.
Yes, love of your life. There, and then me and Justin talked about this, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I love that there were subtitles for people, and I love that there were items that like I didn't know, and I was telling you this, I didn't know it, so I looked it up. And for like Philly, I loved that there was no question like, oh, you're black and you're a cop. There was none of that.
There were black boys
so
everywhere.
I know.
The
like,
White West is such a fucking myth.
I know.
And the reason, crazy. Like, it's such a myth. White macho West.
Brothels, like even like brothels, right? You'll see even in old school Westerns. And I dare anyone to watch it. You will find a fucking brothel and there'll be two girls hooking up. And this is like some sort of like shock that it's like for guys or like whatever. I mean, like there's been all sorts of like it just drives me insane. So like when I can't even express how insane it drives me. So when I watch your show, all of these things that were there were put there not to further the story along. They were put there because this is what we look like. We look like and I enjoyed it so much that was the case. And so like for Julian, I spoke to him about, I love that there were subtitles. I love that you got to speak in a different language that would have been his language. And I love that there were items that weren't explained. And if you want to learn what it is, fucking research it. And then, like for Philly, like for him to play Gus and not have to give an explanation. I got this because of this. I was given this job because no, you were given the job because people respected you. It had nothing to do with the fact that you were black. So like all of these things are so important, which is why it's so frustrating for me that the show is like in limbo or wherever it is right now, because
there's just so much good stuff.
Yes. And there's so much stuff about it. So for Kate, I love her so much. And as time went on and it was settling in and like really, so I saw a shift. There were so many things about her that I just loved. And like I said, she was such a badass, like with so many things. And one of the things that you said before, because I asked you like how much input do you have in certain things, you said that there were a couple things that you put in or like that you had suggested. And I want you to talk about it because suggested were like my favorite things, which is why I know like we're destined to just be like best friends forever. Because the second you said that, I went, shit, those were the things like I fucking love. Those were like the parts that I really loved. So I wanted to ask you for Kate. So we talked a little bit about her arc, obviously. I do want to get to the finale really quickly, but for you, what were some of the things that you kind of suggested that did end up making it on air for her? Because they're really cool and some of my favorite things.
Okay. I have to tab back just really, really quickly because I had two things as we were talking about Philly. One of my biggest wounds about season 2 is that there are like 900 things I want to know about Gus, and that Philly and I talked about watching Gus do that I want to, like, I feel that way about everybody, but I know specifically that there's like an expansion of Gus that we talked about constantly that I, don't know when I'll get to see.
We don't have that much background of him.
Because he deserves a lot. And also that Justin and Philly meeting each other under that tree is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And it's really unfair that people that are that good looking and good at their jobs get to talk to each other on screen and expect the rest of us to just be fine.
I second that.
Although I want more Western scenes where Indigenous and Black people fucking chill and talk about how stupid everybody else is because they're right. And save each other from death, which is what literally happened all the time. So in the Seamus Fahey has given me more of his life and his soul than he should. I was originally tapped as a dancer. I think at the thing was my job. At the thing was
dancer.
Yes, I was a saloon dancer, and like, let's be real.
You talk for a living for writers because writers write it. So WGA.
That's true. But that's true. Well, sometimes I'm left to my own devices and it doesn't work out. WGA. So
go ahead. I had to throw it in there, but go ahead.
This is what happens.
This is what happens when you don't give an actual word.
Don't make me do words good. So I took a decade of ballet like your average lanky Kermit the Frog. I move well. I have dance experience. I'm in my 30s. I don't call on it all the time. You could tell, but I'm not like ready to go with some weird aerial. And Gabby was the singer. And Gabby like can sing fine, but like feels kind of stressed about having to do it. And it's not like her easiest path to expression. And it like takes a minute for her to feel like she got it right. And is a like professional Irish dancer. Like a ranked competitive Irish dancer. She's amazing. And she's the singer. And I'm a professional singer and was the dancer. And at some point I just kind of went, okay, if it please from the bottom of my heart, never make me dance again. Not because I'm not willing to do anything you want me to do, but just because if you want like a quick high impact skill set that I feel very comfortable with, that like you don't have to over rehearse and I'll figure it out and I'll get it done. I promise I feel really able to deliver. Let me sing something. I would kill for it. I would thank you forever. Like it's my happiest place. And Seamus just said yes, which is crazy because people have to write that. It adds so much stress to an episode to have like someone singing. It also has to be earned. Like you have to really convince people that it's okay that someone's singing a random song in the middle of it. Like you really got to get in there. And it takes resources. And we had so precious few. And the fact that they gave them to me for episode 4 for the outsider number still blows my mind. It's a gift that I will never forget or take for granted. And I remember having suggested that she should dress like Tom. And there was some back and forth about like, should I dress as like a sexy version of Tom? Should I dress as like the vaudevillian, like with the girls kind of version of Tom? Should it be provocative? Is that why it bothers him that's provocative? And I was like, no, man, I think she dead ass just gets in there. Like I had a binder on. I was like, no, she's him. This is as close to drag as she knows how to do in this moment. Because she's still hot and he's uncomfortable. Make everybody a little gay. Make everybody think about the fact that everybody's a little gay. Like, just like fuck them.
I loved every second of it. I was so happy that you like had this. I loved every second of it.
Well, listen, I'm not the one to thank. Like, so many people died on that hill so that I could do this.
But yeah, but it was still an idea. Like, you know.
But I mean, like Shalene shot the fuck out of that episode. Like it, man. But oh, hold on, my brain. Yeah, no, it was incredibly beautiful. And I remember also it's hard for Greg because Greg and I are really close and Greg is like a giggly baby girl. And the fact that he had to be angry at me was really hard for him. And at first I think he thought I was going to sit on his lap and he got all excited. He was like, "You're going to let them sit on my lap?" And they were like, "No, of course not. That's ridiculous." And he was like, "Oh, okay." But every time he manages to look furious at me, it like takes a lot for both of us to make it through a take where Greg is furious at me. But yeah, well, then, you know, also we had to like hit up our music supervisor, Sean Callery, and be like, "Hey, can you just whip up a musical number?" And of course he's unbelievable. So he does. And like, it's so many people worked so hard for me to be able to do that. But it really was like getting to do like vaudevillian, you know, gender queer drag light on network TV fills me with joy.
I know, and it was done in such a good way too, because it wasn't like it was done in a way where I feel like you weren't going to get notes from the network, you know what I mean? Like, but it was done in a way where I think everyone got it, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like it's just like
I wanted notes. I was like, they're not if they're like coming for the queers, they've like, first of all, they've picked the wrong people, and also they've picked a terrible time in history to decide to be impossible.
True.
Like it's not a great time to be a bigot. You wouldn't know that by some of the bills that are passing, but it shouldn't be a great time to be a bigot. And I don't think anybody on my show felt that way either. So like there are some, and we also talk about sexuality and sort of the roust about like that there's this understanding of, so I'm getting excited. There's this understanding of sex work, for instance, as like when you see it framed in Westerns and it's like, oh, these like beautiful coquettish women that are like just here for your use and da-da-da. And I was like, no, man, these women had to stay alive. First of all, it wasn't just women. Second of all, like they had to fucking survive. This is a tiny ass town. Like there's like a down and dirty element of like these women own their bodies. You are not renting their bodies. You are renting their time and attention. Like there's like a grounded community feel, which was helped by the fact that all of my dancers were fucking awesome people that I really loved spending time with, who worked so hard. But I think that's part of what I like about it, is that it's clean and inviting and fun, but it's not there is like such a funny lack of exploitation. Like and the way that the women are shot also, no exploitation, no, like, it's not like we put these people here so you could visually consume them. It's we put these people here because they could kick your ass and they're also hot. Pay them. Like, it, you know what I mean? There's just like a really embodied feel to the whole thing. Which is, like more like the actual jam of some tiny frontier town where everybody's fighting for their lives all the time. And,
It was, like,
realistically
done
speaking,
right. It was just done right. And
I hope so.
it was just done right. And it was portrayed in such a great way. I love that that you and Greg were, laughing about it, because I think it just makes it more fun. But I love that whole thing. And also I loved the fact that anytime we did see the brothel, whatever you want to call it, I wouldn't really call it a brothel necessarily, I guess, because I feel like the women were, I hate using the term brothel because I feel like you picture a certain thing, and that's not what it was on the show.
We call it the White Dove House.
Okay, so yeah, that makes me feel comfortable. Like, so like, yeah, the White Dove House, because these women, like you said, were much more like 1, 2, 3, like, I'm doing my job, pay me my money, goodbye, next, thank you, because I have this, this, and this, or even when you guys had that episode, where the women were outside, not from the house, but the women were outside selling stuff and just trying to make it. And I think Abby's the one that walks over and is like, oh, I have to hand you something, but then she feels bad and wants to help them, because women were trying to, they weren't always relying on a man either. Like, they were trying to make it and trying to survive and trying to sell stuff and, do whatever they had to do. So to see the house like that in a way that was way more accurate than what you see in so many other things, is a big deal. So like, I enjoyed all of those kind of things with Kate, and I love the progression too of even her not like being a boss and kind of owning it but not really owning it, and then kind of getting it back, and like that whole progression of it. And in the midst of all this, she is fighting, helping a group of like misfits that I love,
random assholes that I don't know. The number of times I entered scenes and was like, I'm not getting fired over this. Like, I'm not getting fired. Hey, fuckos. Like, I don't know who you are. I like this one. I have a really good sense of this one and she's important to me, but like, what's going on? Technically, the only person I should know is Callian, but like, yeah, no, I many times was like, I need us to roll this thing that I say back a tiny bit because Kate is not losing her job over these people. Like, we'll be shiny happy people holding hands eventually, but you gotta sell me on it because I don't understand what they're talking about right now, and the blonde dudes drive me nuts. Like, it's.
But I loved it so much, and then by the time we get to like the end of the season, I love that there was like this core group that were all so different, that were all coming together to like fight for what was, for like, which sounds corny, but like fight for what was right and to get rid of somebody that was not a good person. And which is hard to say because we all love Greg. That's the thing, and he was so good at playing Tom. But to get rid of somebody that did something horrible. And what I loved was the fact that you guys could not be more different. Like if someone knew nothing that was going on and you walked by that house and took a screenshot, like a screenshot, if you took a photo of this group sitting at a table, you would just be like, that's so odd. Like, they look so quote odd, right? Because you have like, everybody looks different. You got a blonde, a brunette, you got, and you don't know anyone's sexuality, anyone's thing, but like, you have all of these different people sitting at a table, and it should look odd, right, to the normal person. And I think it probably does to a lot of people, but your show makes it that it's not odd, that it's normal, and that should be occurring all the time, right? Like, why wouldn't it? And they were successful. They were success, and that's what I really like too, is that I told you this, we didn't end on a, oh my god, did they do it, what happened? We ended with, they were successful, they worked together, their mission was to get Tom out, and they did. So it just proves the point even further that a group that could not be completely different, whatever sexualities, however they identify, whatever they look like, is fucking irrelevant, which is how it should be. And you guys did what you needed to do. And I love that scene with you, all of you at the end in the house, just kind of like chilling and having a good time and just enjoy. I mean, obviously the Tom situation comes up again. Damn Greg. But for
Damn Greg.
that moment, and it's so beautiful to see all you guys enjoying that moment together.
We really did. We cry a lot. We have a nice time. I will say, I was having a bunch of thoughts as you were talking about that. Yet another, welcome to the laundry list of reasons that I'm sad that we don't immediately get to keep making more of the show. There was a shift for me that I'm hoping other people noticed a little bit. I'm going to say like not back half of the season, but maybe like back quarter of the season, where Justin kind of shows up and is like, yo, they're murdering us. Like, they're murdering us. They're coming through to build this thing, and they are murdering communities just like mine, left, right, and fucking center. I have no idea what to do. This is insane, because they're doing it in a way that like we were not prepared for, because it is genocide. Who is prepared for genocide? Like, are any of you clocking this? And everyone in town is like, no.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, well, we should help because you're our friend and we love you. We'll help you do anything, buddy. And he's like, okay, that's great. It's not just me, right? Like, this thing that's coming is like really scary. So I love that you're trying to show up for me, but also I don't think you're clocking the thing that's happening here to people who aren't as safe as you, to people who are unfortunately kind of like you, very much like you, like people you might sit in a bar with and not realize are out here as part of this, like, colonize the West, colonize the frontier, get out here. And the person who understands is Gus, which makes sense because, Indigenous communities and Black communities have like sheltered each other from this crazy march of colonialism for thousands of fucking years. And you see it a little bit in 11, where we like buy a little bit of time, and Philly's with Justin every minute because, they were friends before this, they'll be friends after this, we're interlopers. And then you kind of start realizing, partially because Greg is a beautiful baby who's amazing at his job, and partially just like, it's where we're going anyway, that Tom is the victim of this expansion as well. Like, let's be real, it's the West. People get shot in the middle of the night all the time. If Hoyt hadn't gotten in the way and then like convinced Abby that she was super fucked if she didn't find another way to do this, she would have just shot him. Then somebody would have gotten shot in a bar because somebody got shot in the middle of the night. Like, people died all the time. People got murdered. It was bananas out there. Like, it was lawless in many ways, settler wise,
we're lucky that Hoyt is just alive, period.
Well, I'm saying, well, listen, I feel very like,
I was like, dude, you're lucky you're alive at all.
By the skin of his teeth, Hoyt Rawlins. Love of my life, fucking Hoyt Rawlins.
I love that so hard, but like, I was like, you're lucky, like you're even fucking alive.
Oh yeah.
It's like mind blowing that like people haven't come and killed you yet. And
Hoyt knows that though.
Yeah, I know.
Hoyt wakes up every day and he's like, "Good morning, Jesus. Thank you for allowing me to live another day. I will see you later." Like, he knows.
And he was, I mean, because he was so good at it. But I mean, it was so funny. Yeah. I was like, you're just so lucky.
Hoyt and Kate falling in love. First of all, I have like a very extensive storyline where every single person falls in love with Kate, and I have like.
By the way, you're the person to say this. Other cast members have said that you guys all talked about what it would be like if the other one got together and what that would all look like.
Because there's nobody who wouldn't work.
Yeah.
There's nobody who doesn't have a reason to fall in love. There's no one who doesn't have a very interesting and realistic dynamic about why it would happen. There's nobody who doesn't make any sense. Nobody. Mm-hmm. But I liked that towards the end of the season, there was this shift from like, there's this one bad dude and he did a bad thing to like something. Well, because it happens with Lawrence's character as well. Like, there's this influx of toxicity and damage that comes with the railroad coming. And so Independence is about to like kind of get blown wide open because of this thing that's coming that is honestly like primarily affecting the people of color on the show. And so sure, like Tom's in jail, hooray, hurrah, whatever. And Abby now has to deal with this massive trauma that she doesn't know how to let go, because how on earth could you let go of a loss that big followed by a complete rearrange of your life, even if it's not about Liam anymore? And there's this thing coming that's going to fuck all of us. And you start to realize that it actually, like, colonial expansion is fucking Tom, right? Like, he's not the world's worst dude necessarily. He's not great, but like, you find out that he's been stolen from, harmed, traumatized, and weaponized as a brute, as a person who is willing to do damage, willing to do harm in the name of this thing, which is the same thing that's barreling towards the town. Like, it's like there's like a bigger thing than
Tom has this idea. Yeah, Tom is behind the idea of the luxuriousness of what it sounds like. And because of that, he's willing to go to extreme lengths. It's a drama, right? So he's willing, on a show. So he's willing to go to these extreme lengths, but people were willing to do that. And no matter the casualties. And that's kind of what Tom represents. So it's not necessarily that I agree with you. It's not necessarily he's the evil villain on the show. He didn't do great things. I mean, let's be real. But he is a full believer of this evolution and of what it's to become. Whereas everybody else is like, no, because this is going to hurt me. Or even like when you were talking about Killian and Justin, his character is going, yeah, you're helping me and you're helping out. But there's a whole group of us here, but there's also.
You don't understand that this represents a massive, like, well, obviously he doesn't know yet, but like, it's an unthinkable kind of violence.
Right.
It's an unthinkable, systemic, terrifying kind of violence that like no one understands. And some people are more like exposed to it than others, and watching characters talk about it, put their foot in their mouth, do it wrong. Like, it was like when Julie, who I'm in love with, came to play with Lawrence for that one episode. And when, after Kate leaves and you're thinking, oh, I hope this lady isn't like who Kai's really in love with, because I kind of like Kate and Kai, but maybe. And there's a point where Julie's character Lily says, listen, we're Chinese, nobody wants us here. Yeah. Actually, Lawrence might say it. They're having a conversation together about whether or not they should leave, whether or not they should stay. And it's like, what are you talking about? Oh, my friends. Oh, I like it here. It's good. She's like, but they don't if you're not building the railroad or doing their laundry, they don't want us here. Like, we are othered in a way that you can't put a Band-Aid over. And then like he loses this person. Like, ugh, yeah.
Because we could literally, I know me and you could talk for like 2 hours about this.
I'll talk about the show all day. I love everybody on the show.
I know, but you know what's so weird is talking to you about this out loud and really getting into it. And because the show's in this limbo and you're the last one. So I was like, no pressure on you. But because we can talk about all this stuff, the more that we're talking about it, the more I'm going, holy shit, this is us now. So the more like me and you were talking about this, which is so insane, because your show takes place in hundreds of years ago. What the fuck are we doing? So it's just the more you start talking about it, it's crazy, which is why I keep reiterating the show needs to be on the air, because the more you see it, the more it makes it normal. And we need this to be normal. We need this to be on air and to be normal. We just need to get to a place where it's not a thing, And
I honestly believe, and this is me, like, I'm obviously coming at this from several intersections of privilege. So I say this every time because I don't ever want anybody to be like, you think you're the one to talk about this, kiddo? But like the idea and history of the American Western frontier was built on the erasure of indigenous peoples. And the textures of it and the supports of it were indigenous people, Mexican people, queer people, Chinese people, Black people, in community with each other, staying alive. And the thing that erases that history is the industrial march forward, capitalism, racism, and whiteness. So the reason that we look back at that time and we think, oh, it was full of macho white cowboys is because there's this concerted effort to make sure that the expansion West seemed like the values of America. And they went, okay, well, what are the values of America? It's none of these people. Can't be any of these people. Fuck them. It has to be whoever we need the world to be built for. So who is it for right now? Well, it's for us. So they're not out there. They don't signify anything. They have no knowledge. They have no adventure, no freedom, no, like, they can't be the story of what it is to settle in America or to explore America, because they're not American values. They're not. And it's happened in a gazillion other countries in similar way. Like, it's the idea that to colonize somewhere, to settle somewhere, is better for it. And it's on the backs of people who cannot matter, cannot be the real story of that place. And that's now. That's like that story, that those systemic forces are still here,
and
are still out
in states that are doing the same. Let's get rid of certain educational things, and yeah, we're heading down the, and that's why, like, for me, this show is so, like, critical. You know what I mean? Like, I know, like, some shows, like, people are like, yeah, it's a television show, like, move on, like, it got killed. But for me, this show in particular just hit home for me because it was very important, the content and the things that you guys were showing. And so that's why I'm so, like, frustrated with it. And that's why I want to interview every single person related to it, because it was just, like, that's, like, my only answer. Just, like, because
well, and I know, like,
so much good.
Listen, I know there's stuff that, it's network TV. There's a certain level of whatever that you're able to dive into or not.
Right.
There are going to be times where you pull a punch and you shouldn't have. There are going to be times when you speak about something softly when you really need to yell. Like, that's the truth of when your art is married to commerce. It shouldn't be that way. You never know when the risk is okay to take. You never know when, right? Like, that's kind of, but the thing that I appreciate about our show is that, like, yeah, sometimes it's not in a space where we can hit as hard as we would like to, or where we can push something where we want to, or where it's allowed to be dark enough to actually reflect what would really be going on in that space and the time, or, whatever. But the fact that there was room to start to explore those things visually in a way that was gentle and respectful to all the people making the work, that, like, the people making the work were like, I would like to enter into a racial conversation about this reality, or I would like to enter into it, that space to me means something. And, whether or not you have room to be as radicalized as you want to, or as, intense about something as you want to, that space we had, there were things that, I was looking forward to seeing change a little bit, right? Any show your first season, you kind of go, okay, like, what do we all do? What do we all need? What's going on? But there was such, like, courage and room for growth in those spaces, in spaces where, like, people were like, yeah, I want to fucking talk about this. Yeah, I want to get into this, and I also want to watch a bunch of people be beautiful friends. And I also want to watch someone try and shoot somebody through an entire building. And then I also want to learn something I had no idea about, being a Black cowboy. Like, I liked the gentle space of it within a drama that doesn't have to take itself crazy seriously, but can move you towards ideas and thoughts and experiences that maybe you wouldn't have had otherwise. And it doesn't have to drag you through the dirt of trauma. It doesn't have to make your actors relive, things that are traumatizing or exhausting for them, but there's still the opportunity to have that conversation. Yeah. And I think that's
and that's what it did. Are you happy with how Kate's story, at least for now, I would like to say for now, because I'm really, like, crossing my fingers on future, but for now, are you happy with where Kate kind of ended, and that last episode, and just, the shootout, and Tom's, obviously we're not, as fans, obviously we're not happy Tom is missing, but I keep telling people too, the other thing is, if there, is a season 2, the guys with the tattoos on their hands and all of that stuff, we don't even know if that's a good or bad thing. Like, people are just assuming it's, like, a good thing. I don't know if this is bad for Tom or good for Tom, so I'm not really sure. But in terms of,
his dad showed up, so that's a whole bucket of worms for him.
But, like, for you, where do you feel, at least, are you happy with where Kate is by the finale? If that was the last time we see Kate, are you happy with where she is?
No, of course not. Did anybody say yes? No. We were just so, we were really, really, really arranged around like a crisis moment. And you didn't, we saw all of us in this crisis moment, but I think that everybody kind of leveled up in a million ways over the course of the season and is now a very cool version of who they started as. And there's like nobody that I don't want to see do other shit. Nobody. Like I want Kate. Kate is now no longer a narc. Because I was like, that was another way that people were very generous to me and let me shift something I was uncomfortable with. I was like, I don't want to play cop on TV. The Pinkertons are violent, racist union busters, and I am not a person who thinks that they're cool. I understand the portion of their history that is interesting. I understand that there may have been people who were interesting in that context and who did interesting things. I just don't want to be a cop on TV anymore. Like it doesn't make me comfortable. So she quit. In the face of realizing that sometimes what you think of as justice is actually aiding harm. And then she got left the keys to a massive watering hole, birthplace of safety and independence, secret queer center. And she was gifted it by her crazy English dad, essentially, who she loves the shit out of, Mark Sheppard for life. I wanted to be a drag king. My second season pitch was that that's how she moves into a queer zone, is by going, oh no, it's European. Hagen would love it. Because there was tons of male impersonation at the turn of the century in Europe. So like, it's like less clockable. It's like, oh no, it's performance. I'm not gay. It's just so funny that I'm, oh, look, just like a dude. Ha ha ha.
I love the idea too, to be like, yeah, he would have loved that, because he would have, like, because
he
kind of character.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, like he was like down with anything. So I think he would have just like gotten a kick at it. I feel like he would have walked in and laughed. Like he would have been like and been like, this is amazing that someone's doing it.
Like that checks out. That's like, yeah,
like it would have fit
forward back. He knew Kate was. I want a whole show that's that. I want a whole show that's Lawrence and I living in San Francisco and fighting crime. I want a whole show that is like Kate and Hoyt robbing trains. I want a whole show that's Tom and Kate handcuffed together. I want a whole show that's Abby and Kate just living quietly in town like a slice of life and like being in love. I want Lucia to like come down from the ranch at night and decide that she's going to become the the lounge act at Hagen's. So it's just Kate and Lucia chilling in this like beautiful old place at night talking about bullshit. Like,
but you know what's funny is I love this format. Like hypothetically, if it was picked up on like a streaming service, how fun would that be if every episode was just completely different? Like it was the same character, because they've done that thing where it's like the same actors playing different characters. I don't mean that. You're all the same characters. It's just different scenarios. So like each episode, you guys are just in a different scenario. Like no explanation. It doesn't have to be like a whole long story arc, but it'd be super fun if one episode you were like handcuffed to Tom. One episode everybody switches, and like that would be like super fun to actually see.
Gus and Kate just chilling.
That's something
my brain, Gus and Kate are like this. Actually, in my brain, Kate and most people are like that. But like, I don't know. We have all these. We never got to hang out as much as we wanted, and we hung out all the time. But like, especially at work, we'd be like we had one moment where Justin realized that he hasn't ever talked to me. Because he comes up to me and he's like, hey, like Kai swung by. I think maybe it would be smart if you talked to him. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. And then as we were walking away, in scene, as we were walking away, he was like, hey, have I ever fucking talked to you on the show? And I was like,
like crazy.
I don't think you have. Is this the first time you've spoken to me? And he was like, yeah, I think it is. It's really weird. I was like, yeah.
So crazy. I didn't even like think about that.
Yep. He doesn't talk to me.
Yeah, it's weird because some of you are so like spread out, and like for some characters they didn't kind of come in, so that's interesting because like Tom was such a storyline, and again it's a drama and we all know this, that you have to have some sort of like that pulls you all together. But it's interesting because but think about like Kai, like yes he had like interaction with something, but he wasn't like living in the midst of everything that was going on with Independence. So like there's many characters like that, not necessarily have to be the core, but many characters that you didn't talk to or interact with. And so,
just like busted into Kai's zone once every couple days with like a massive emergency or to be fed for free. This poor man was just
I know.
Okay, jackasses, like get in here you go. Like
you're like,
oh, you need to save some guy's life and now you want like Chaosu for free? Fuck you. Like
I know. I feel like it's really funny because when you think about it, you walk in or he finds out whatever it is, and like he makes all these dresses. It's like no charge. Like then like Hoyt comes in.
You don't know how he makes money.
Oh, I was gonna ask like if there was
Everything's
like some secret thing that I didn't know about.
Lawrence's catchphrase for a little while was on the house. He'd be like, it's on the house. Everything's on the
Yeah,
house.
and like Hoyt comes in
Everything's on
and
the
he's
house.
like, "Oh, like I need to help you out, blah blah blah," and then he's like, "Yeah, here's some soup," and I'm going, "Oh my gosh,
No
this guy."
problem. Like,
Yeah, and like it's just so crazy. Abby needs something, and Kai's like, "Got it, take care of it," and I'm
multi-purpose,
going,
multi-purpose guy.
how does he do all of this stuff? But you're right,
Finance.
he's like the go-to one that's
Finance this man who has every skill set imaginable. And nobody was like, wait a minute, can you kill a guy? Like, when someone's good at that many things, immediately assume that he can kill a guy. Just do it. Like, wait.
I mean, and listen, he was good at everything. I mean, like literally everything. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Kate and Kai, I mourn Kate and Kai so desperately. I loved
it because at the beginning it was like sort of like semi flirtatious with maybe a romance, but then went into full out friendship, and it was such a beautiful, supportive. Did you like? I don't know if you felt that way, but I felt like it switched again in that middle section when your character, like when Kate switches. I felt like that's when that switch happened, and they became like the closest friends ever. But before that, I felt like they were trying to make it like a flirty thing, that he had liked her, and you had
my jam.
And then I feel like that changed.
Here's my jam. Here's my like. So in the beginning, Kai was written a little bit like, not on purpose, it just kind of eventually ended up reading a little bit like he was this sweet guy with this crush, and that Kate's such a force of nature that, like, you know, she notices, but she won't do anything about it because he's so dear and they're so close. And I was like, all right, bullshit. He's talented. He's gorgeous. He has guile in a way that no one else in town has. He's an outsider who sees things the same way that she can see things. He has this like deep, sly intelligence that you'd have to be the same kind of person to recognize. He's a babe. It is bananas to think that Kate would encounter this person and go, oh, sweet Kai, baby, like, no. And like, Kate's not made of stone. And I also didn't, you know, the same way that I didn't always necessarily read Kate as a woman. I don't necessarily need Kate to be gay. Like, Kate was always just so queer to me. And I was like, fuck yeah, she's into Kai. And I think that neither of them could really reach for each other in any meaningful way because both of them had cover stories that were too important to lose. And neither of them are stupid, and both of them are hurt. So like, there were two ghosts living in town this whole time, and it was both of them, and neither of them could give it up. It was not safe. It wasn't okay. And both of them were grieving because he lost Lily and she lost, you know, at the same time. And so they just cycled, understanding that this other person probably sees me better than anybody does, but I do not have the option of softness right now, especially not towards them. And I think that this cutesy, like, oh, hi, sweetie, oh, honey bear, little Pookie, whatever, was her way of keeping him at a distance. And then she just kind of got used to doing it. So then she slowly started to kind of underestimate what he was seeing, and that was her mistake. She treated him like a person that wasn't as of consequence as she knew he was. She got lazy. And he calls her out on it. He's like, do you fucking think I don't see what you talk about? You think I'm not paying attention to who you talk to? I've known this whole time. You just didn't tell me. You thought that was going to be fine.
Like, you saw a change, because I do think there was that like la-di-da kind of thing in the beginning, and you do see a change with it, and I loved the friendship that eventually becomes the two of them.
Oh, friends first. I'm not saying like, oh yeah, they're gonna go, but no, like,
but I agree with you. I think I 100% agree with you that I think that it makes sense in terms of, I never thought of it in a way how you just said it, in terms of like two ghosts kind of like living, kind of just existing to exist, right? Because they're in so much pain. But in the first few episodes, you know, that little like flirty thing, I agree with you. It was cute because we love Kai, like, because Kai's so cute. Like, I mean, how could you not? Sure, yeah. It's cute, but I don't think it fit until you fell into that moment of 4 and 5 where you, I think maybe felt more comfortable or whatever. And yeah. I don't know, it just shifted and there was something different. And I just liked that relationship. And I liked how that
you noticed that. I'm so honored that you noticed that. I feel like they are equals. and that they are friends and colleagues first. Like they understand each other on a playing field of equals. But I think that like when both of them finally came clean, it was so confronting because they were like, oh shit, I can want you now.
Yes.
I can't. And then both of them went, I don't know what to do with that. And then didn't know how to reach out because neither of them are good at it or prepared to be emotionally available. But there was like this reckoning of like, oh, you're a grown up and I'm a grown up. And now there's nothing in the way. And you've seen me clearly from the start. And I don't know how to have you, keep you, reach for you. And I want to do all those things at once. And I'm not moving. That was my sense by the end, where it was kind of like, they also let us keep, Lawrence and I have this little thing where we go, hi, at the beginning of every scene. And he's the only person she does that to. And our editors were so good and protective of it. And our producer, Laura Terry, was so protective of it that anytime it got cut by accident, she'd be like, is it a scene with Lawrence and Katie? Did you keep the hi? And so now almost every time, if you look back, there's like the classic hi at the beginning of every scene that we do together. And it makes me so happy.
Yeah.
I'm such a dork about my show. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. I love it so much. Like literally, because I literally pick it apart like how you do. So like to hear you, it kind of like reevaluates like my thoughts because I'm like, that's what I thought, or like that's what I was thinking. And so yeah, but I do see like a huge major shift, and I just loved where it all went. But in terms of to like kind of lighten up, I don't know how much more time you have because we're so over, but
however much you want. Here, lighten up. Ask me some shit.
So I wanted to ask, because this group is so much fun and you guys are all crazy in the best ways known to man. What were some of the I've heard some, but what were some of the shenanigans? Because you guys are like so much fun. So what were some of the shenanigans between filming? I mean, I've seen videos, I've seen some downpours, I've seen some fun things like that you guys have put on social. But
lightning storms, a lot of lightning storms. Did Justin ruin the rock thing? Did he tell you about the rock thing? Pile of rocks?
I don't think so.
But no. Okay, good.
So you have it. It's yours.
Oh yeah. Oh, it better be mine. I'm trying to think of like there was nothing really like so crazy that if I tried to explain it again, it's like summer camp where like to you it's fucking hysterical, and to someone else they're just like, oh, whatever, you guys. There was a take that we finally did. We didn't have because we didn't have a ton of time and we didn't have a ton of money. We didn't get to like fuck around during shooting that much. So like there weren't that many outtakes we got to do on purpose just to be funny. Yeah. But there was one where when Tom is getting into the wagon, I don't know if anybody told you about that, but there was a take where as Tom's walking by everybody into the jail wagon, everybody just kissed him, which was great. And he's Greg, so Greg's like very method and he's very willing to like let people go deep and make big choices. So he came up to me and I finished my thing. I just grabbed his face and planted one on him, and he fully just thought he was going to keep doing the scene. He was like, oh, Katie made a big move. Katie took a big swing, and just was so, he was like a good little actor, and he was like, rah, rah, and kept like Tom. I watched him laugh, and then he kept Tomming along. And then Matt Barr was like, come here, and then kissed him on the forehead and was like, bless your heart, and then sent him away. And then Kat was like, listen, I already kissed you on the show, so I'm not going to do it again. Get in the van. And but I really couldn't pinpoint the moment when he realized he didn't have to keep being Tom. And now whenever we watch the finale, it's like weird to me that it's not canon, that everybody just like kissed him on the way out of town. Awesome. It's good. It's really good. Our show is just all about making out, basically. If you really look
so funny because that's why I told you. And for cats, we're talking about like one night stand, but we were talking. It led into like also because I was really rooting for like Abby and Hoyt. I said in the beginning I
was interesting.
Yes, and that's what she said too. And I was like, really? Because in the beginning I like felt it, then I didn't. Then like then it kind of went.
I don't think it's 1 point score. I'm with her. I'm not an Abby and Hoyt person. Not because they're not fine, but like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
to me.
Like in the beginning I was like, ooh, this could work. Then I was like, oh, this can't work. And then towards the very end with the child thing and like how he's sort of kind of, I was like, maybe it could work, but obviously they're so different, but they say like, opposites attract. So I was like, maybe it could work. But we were kind of joking, like maybe she would have one night stand. Like, why not? And I was like, yeah. Or like you could have one night stand with Kate. And you came up. I was like,
no. God damn it. I'm putting my foot down. Callian is mid-show.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be done. Callian is mid-show. Abby deserves to be unhinged Abby has always deserved to be unhinged. She is exhausted. Abby gets to do a bunch of drugs. Abby gets to sleep with whoever she wants to in grief in this completely unsupervised, crazy place where she gets.
Have a whole bunch of one night stands. Have fun.
I'm saying. Abby gets to grief sleep her way across Independence if she wants to. No one can say shit. Leave her alone. Callian is mid-season. Kate is endgame. Kate's endgame. Abby the whole time. Kate the whole time. Ultimate safety, ultimate love and friendship, ultimate like beautiful
I can see that.
sitting on the porch together being gay, like that it was just like it was always you.
And both also, you guys are so, even though you guys get into like one like minor fight, you guys are so there for each other.
I love acting.
So there for each other, and you're so supportive of one another. And even if something's crazy, like I love like there's like one scene and you're like kind of telling her like this is not like what are you thinking, this is crazy, but you're still there. Like you're like, all right, but I guess we're going with crazy. Like I guess we're doing it, and you're still there. So for me, like I would love that. Like I would love to see them together.
People keep diffusing it into gal pals, and I'm like, first of all, gross. What is it? 20 years ago. Like, second of all, let it be what it is.
No, I felt like it was like soulmate. Like I felt
let it be what it is. It's not like I'm also crazy and my best friend's always there for me. That's Hoyt. Hoyt is I'm a little nuts. Are you coming with me? Like, let's go on the joyride. That's what Hoyt's for.
That's why I don't one night stand. Like, Matt, don't get mad at me, but that's why I Hoyt's one night stand. But but I always
fell in love with me for like a week and a half. That's it.
Yeah, I felt a soulmate, and whether it was sexual or not is one, and I guess everyone's interpretation. But for me, soulmate doesn't like it could be separate, right? Like sexual could come later or attraction, whatever. But there was this soulmate connection between the two of you from the second people could go back and even watch the freaking pilot. I mean, it's the second you walk over, it's like, I'm going to help you. Here's all the information. Here's all the details. Here's what you should know. And like right away, without question, like, Kate over and it's like here. And as time goes on, I just went like, I was like, damn, like I want a soulmate like that. Like someone that just has your back 24/7, will question you, will fight with you, is not afraid to say shit to you. It's not afraid to go through your shit, but is there for you, and that's what she ultimately becomes. And by the end of it, I mean, when you got, like I said, that table scene kills me every time. I kind of wish it ended that way, because in a way that scene was just so beautiful with all of you guys together. And then I was just going, oh, and I just loved it. So yeah, like I would call you guys soulmates, and whether that turned into something down the line in season 2, 3 would make complete sense to me. Like it would not be shock. It wouldn't be something weird. Like it would make absolute sense.
It was on purpose. Like those choices were made on purpose from the beginning. It wasn't just like, oh, it kind of looked a little bit like you might be. Like that was a conscious choice on both of our parts to be that emotionally available in a way that might be a little confusing. Like that wasn't purely platonic or purely that like the immediate intimacy made both of them a little confronted or uncomfortable. And so they just orbited around it in whatever way that makes sense. Like it's on purpose. It's not an accident. And then it's gone. Wow, bye Vance. You were talking about later in the season,
you guys being soulmates, and then maybe down the road it becoming something.
And then also like I end up with her sister.
Yeah.
And what a funny like bump in the road to be like, yeah, I got so close and then I just sidestepped the thing by like this much. And like, Charlotte, who is beautiful, Stella is fantastic. And like, I don't think it was a stopgap, but it is kind of funny that it's like you start to orbit. Like that's a person that Kate finds attractive.
And that like closer and closer to Abby,
yeah, like closer to the chest, different big city kind of girl is like Kate's into that. And so then you got to go like, wait a minute, this is like, that's Abby all the time. What are you talking about? Like Kate's not into Abby. Give me a break.
I know. And like I really honestly, like literally, I think it was the second episode where I was like, these girls are soulmates. I don't like I never even thought of gal pal. Maybe it's because I'm older. I don't know.
Some people do. Some people are like,
but to me it wasn't like, oh, two girls like BFFs. Like to me it was like soulmate, because if you put yourself in the position that this show is real, right? And this is real scenarios, a gal pal bestie friend is not going to do the shit that the two of you did for each other. Like that is like soulmate shit where you're willing to possibly get shot, killed, whatever. That's not, I mean, listen, maybe if you had a really close friend, maybe there is a friend of yours that would be like, yes, I'll step in front and I'll take one for you. But
I do have those friends, so I'm not gonna,
right.
but like
But in this scenario with this show, with this group, you can't say that they were friend, like, like Abby's not gonna just friendly like step in front, like, you know what I mean? Like there was a soulmate thing there. And I said it from, I think it was like second episode, I went, they're soulmates. And then now again, whatever that means to anybody, fine. Yeah. But I was like, maybe down the road that, that could be something. Which is why when I was talking to Kat, I was going like, yeah, like I really wanted you and Hoyt, and I kept like joking about it. And she was like, yeah. And then she's like, well, what about like a one night stand? I'm like, yeah. I was like, screw it. Like she's in there. Go ahead. Yeah. Like, one night stand with everybody and just have
everybody
fun.
Should. Everybody should. There's nothing to do in town. There's a bananas of looking people.
We were talking about it and she was saying, like, we talked about Tom and I was like, how did that happen? And because
look at him,
hate him, right? But yeah, and she started saying, but it's true though, in life, you might, again, the stakes are a little higher. The husband was, her husband was involved and getting killed. But over time, when you start to get to know somebody and maybe you realize like their belief might not have been, they might not have known, and they start to grow a little bit. And there was some growth in Tom. You can't blame her. Like, yes, he's hot. I mean, and he was growing. He was super nice to her. And I don't know if he really, to me, and I think he might have regretted some of the stuff that happened. And it was just unfortunate scenario. He had his brother, there was pressure, there was a lot of stuff on him. I don't know if necessarily, given the circumstances, if he was by himself, if that would have happened, I think he would have walked away. I think he would have walked away. And
also, like, to go like
slightly that happening,
to go like slightly darker with it, like sometimes, wow, the loudest truck in the whole wide world. I mean, like sometimes when you're in grief or you're in trauma or you're in this like insane situation that has decentered you completely and you don't know who you are and you feel like you're bottled into this one thing that's so important, the only other person who can see you is the other person who's in it with you.
Right.
Like no one can really understand what happened to her. No one can really understand. And like, there's an intensity to this vitriol and to this grief that is like, in a funny way, it lets her take it out on him. It lets her put her hands on the thing that is so, far away and mystify the idea of this dangerous, horrible person who took everything from her, except then the guy that he took from her is awful. And she has to post-mortem try and process the fact that this guy was not the person that she wanted to love or the person that she thought he was, but he's not even there for her to get closure on. And it like, you start to feel crazy and like in a moment of deep grief where you feel untouchable by everyone else. The only other person maybe who can touch you and have you feel it is the only other person in that shit with you. Like,
right. And not to mention that, but not to mention when you see the full story, you realize that it wasn't really like Tom just walked up to someone and shot him. You know what I mean? It was like Tom had been sitting there and had been watching her. And like, so there was so much more to the story as there is with everybody. So when you saw that, it's hard to just be like, he was the evil man on the show. You know what I mean? Because like, there were so many circumstances that made what happened. And I think that growth and her seeing him change and her and being so sweet and being nice to her, I don't know. I asked like Kat at first, I was like, what happened? How did this happen? And then she talked about it. And then after it, I said, you know what though? But it kind of like, I kind of get it, like I kind of understand
also,
that because he was different too. And I think in a way, had he stayed longer and maybe, a season 2 would show that he was growing as a person. I feel like slowly he was representing change, that it's okay to get other ideas and learn and adjust from them.
Or maybe we never saw who he really was in the first place.
True.
We never really got to see the kind of person he tried to be without being strong-armed by people who could hurt him really badly.
Yeah, his brother, like there were all these demons that were coming at him.
And like knocking off some awful dude who's in the pocket of your family for like not doing the thing he said he was going to do, like Wild West. Not the craziest thing. Not that he didn't like shoot her children. Like this was as far as he knew, he's like, here's some asshole.
Right.
Who said she said he'd do a thing, took a bunch of our money. He's trying to cut town and not do the thing. Like Hoyt has killed that guy before. I can guarantee you. right? Like it's not the way it's just that he was asked to kill her and didn't. Like there's when you really like put it in context of the wider microcosm of the West, like, all right, I don't know that he's like the worst person I know. I think that those railroad executives that were like monsters to Callion are probably worse than Tom on a good day, you know? Like it's I don't know. I have thoughts and feelings, but also I really love Greg. So
everybody loves Greg.
he's a sweet baby.
I already know the answer to this, but this could be a huge shocker to you. What was your favorite outfit that you wore this season?
My favorite outfit.
I feel like I know the answer to it, but I'll see.
Obviously, I love my suit. I love both my suits.
Yes.
They were made for me, which is crazy.
Do you get to steal them?
No.
I
wanted to. I did try on Greg's pants at one point, which was fun, finding out that I fit in Greg's pants, which makes me just not understand how Greg is organized as a human. It's so confusing. What did I love?
Are they big on you at least? Because I feel like he has like, no, really? Nope. But I feel like his legs look bigger than your legs. So how does
the little Dorito boy? Yeah, I got a booty though. He's a little Dorito boy, and it's all up here, and then he has this little tiny. You know when guys have like this little slutty waist that you're furious at them for, because you're like, why do you get to walk around with that out? Yeah, I fit Greg's pants. Yeah, suits.
I just need info.
Right, suits, and then that one house dress that I wear in episode 2, the like really long bell sleeved one with the beautiful pattern, which is actually an antique, and I probably shouldn't have been wearing it, but I did, and I was very careful. Yeah,
good outfits.
Those are my jams. Oh, I forgot to tell you my best shenanigan, which is that
yes,
Justin and I put rocks in each other's pockets, or found ways to hand each other rocks. We'd be like, oh fuck, can you hold this for me for a second? And it would be a rock. And then for like a couple weeks before the finale, because we were tired and exhausted and freezing and, you know, had been working for 6 months. And then it escalated to like bigger and bigger rocks. And then I would like put rocks in his backpack, and he would like leave rocks in my set bag or like on my chair or whatever. And then on the last day of shooting, I put rocks in his shoes, and like it was just this whole thing.
He said got a rock in his shoe, I think, when we were talking.
Oh yeah. Like nothing groundbreaking, just like, you know, you need something to do. And it was like how Matt Barr and I had a bit where if he poured a drink in a scene, I had to try and take it. There's a couple of them that stayed in, I think, if anybody wants to Easter egg it. There's yeah. Every time he poured a drink.
If he poured a drink like at a bar or something. So like if he poured it in
show, if Hoyt pours a drink, and if I am in the room, we would try to find a blocking way for me to take it.
I like that.
I think it makes it in twice. There's one in 4, and there's one in 8, 9, whenever the mid-season finale was. And he has to go, hey, every time, because that's my favorite Hoyt sound. So then I told our trailer AD, I was like, hey, I need you to lock my trailer, because I just feel like Justin's gonna pull some shit. Because I feel like Justin's gonna pull some shit. So, and he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. And then it was our last day, and so I wrapped and I went back to my trailer, and there was an island. When I say an island, I mean like this big around of rocks that were like too big for a regular person to carry. In my trailer with a note that said, no one will ever love you like I do. I'm big, like big on them. And so Justin hadn't come back yet, and so I got our trailer AD to move them all over to his trailer.
You moved it to his trailer, right?
I did do that, yes. The shape of a penis.
Right? Yep.
He
told but he left out
the fact I lied to him about it. He what?
He left out the fact that the rocks were so big and stuff. And then he said he had photos, and I was like, I need pictures of this.
I have photos.
And I was like, we need pictures. We need to put those online. And he was like, it was so funny, because he's like, I thought I got her. And then he said like he did back, and like you told, like
the reason he didn't tell you how big the rocks were is because you would have to be just such an impeccable, unbelievable wiener to spend that amount of time moving rocks. He was like, yeah, I just got like a headlamp. Egley gave me a headlamp, and like I went out there with my little box, and I was like in full costume. So I feel like people probably thought it was like part of my like my process. I was like out there with a headlamp, fucking putting rocks in, and took me a bunch of trips. And at one point I just like looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, I'm a father. What am I doing? It took me like a long time. Like I was like sweating by the time it was done. I was like, oh man, fuck, I have to go back to work now. Like, and then I put them back. But the hard part was lying to him about it for like 6 hours. Because Lawrence was on his side, and Lawrence is really scary. Lawrence is a sociopath. Lawrence is really difficult to lie to. He's so scary. He has like the driest sense of humor and he's so observant. And I was like, I can lie to everybody else, but if Lawrence looks into my eyes for too long, I'm fucked. And I fooled him, which is maybe the best acting I've ever done. And then for like 4 days afterwards, the only thing he could talk to me about was what a monster he had decided I was now. He was like, "You're insane. You're terrible. You're a monster in there." And I was like,
so funny though. But when you told me that story, I was like, oh, that's right, because he said that he had put rocks in your trailer, and then he came back to a big penis. Did you leave a note with it, or no? You just
yes, it said want to bet.
What did it say?
Want to bet? Because it says no one will ever love you like this, and I said want to bet. Or no one will ever love you.
Out because I was gonna say if he had a note for you, which I think he might have said. But so
I have it. I have it somewhere in my house. Yeah. But like
amazing.
I was very proud of myself. But the real jam, the reason that this was like worth me spending a whole afternoon on is that like I sent him a video because Justin also walked into a door in his house right before we filmed episode 11. It was just dark and he was tired and he turned around and walked into a door and he cut his forehead open to the point where he had to like call us and see if he needed stitches to go to the hospital. And panicked the makeup team. So we had to just write in him getting hit in the head because he literally walked into a door like a dumbass. So then in episode 11, they had to be like, oh no, we got a little scratched up there because there was no way to cover it because he just cut his head open. So I made fun of him, obviously, every day, forever, because how could I not? And so I sent him a video being like, you're not going to believe this. I just fucking walked into my bathroom door. This is a sign. This is a sign. This is the great like equalizing of karma that I walked in, but I made sure that I like caught the floor in the background and that there was nothing there. And then I got like our trailer AD to knock on the door and be like, hey, you can go to makeup. And I was like, oh, thanks. I'll come back up and see you, so that it was like as natural as possible. Mm-hmm. So I didn't just lie. I like really lied. I put like a lot of work into lying. I like and then I run like the gauntlet of every single person we know being like, I think she's fucking with you, man. No, I know, and I had to keep going.
Trying to figure it out.
Took a lot of work. It was the hardest thing I did on that show. That's segment of acting, hardest work I ever did on our program.
And nothing for Matt. Nothing crazy with Matt.
I didn't really prank Maddie very much. I just kind of like, I don't know. Matt's so like good natured.
I know he's so sweet. It's funny because he always plays these like outlandish kind of like crazy characters. And so I was like, well, you must have pranked. And when I talked to him, he's like, no. And then like, as we're talking, I'm like, you're just so like,
so nice.
Sweet. Like, so I would feel bad, like even pranking him, like I would totally prank you. Like we would have so much fun, I'm sure. And I would totally prank Justin and like Philly, like 100%. But like, it was just funny. So I asked everybody, I'm like, did you do anything with that? And like, most people were like, but it was Maddie.
Oh. Like, no, we did. But when if you're gonna do bits with Matt, you have to play off of his wholesomeness because he can't get rid of it. So like not that he doesn't have an edge as like an adult person, he does, but like, the scene where he's talking to Gavin, who is also so sweet, and he's like, "Why? I thought you didn't think I was your pa, did you?" Well, no, when they're talking about it, and then he starts to cry. All of us like snuck into the shot and like stacked ourselves Scooby-Doo style over his head and around him like that, but like to hear. And Maddie's so professional that he thought that someone was trying to move him back onto his mark a little bit. Like he thought that he was just because it was a close-up. So he was like, I must be a little off my mark. And he just started to move because he was like, oh, someone's moving me. Okay, I must be off my jam. But really it was just all of us like seeing if we could standing on each other, seeing if we could Scooby-Doo around him. I think that's the only thing we did to Matt.
Only Matt would be like, I'm back the wrong spot.
While he was weeping. Yeah. He was like, am I good? Am I? I think that's the only thing I did to Maddie, I think.
I know. And that's what it was funny because everybody I asked was like, I think I think I did this. And then they were like, but none of it was like really that pranky. And I was like, I think it's just because it's Matt. Like you just can't.
Maddie and Lawrence, like Maddie is unshakable when it comes to doing his job. And not because he's no fun, but just because he's like, it's just his habit. And like he like our rehearsals will be like everybody in a room. None of us are saying the right words because we're so tired. We probably should say the right words, but so I'll be like, hey, fucko, come here. And Kat will be like, what's going on? Also, I went to the bank today. And I'll be like, nothing, where's Gus? And then Philly will walk in and be like, hi, it's me. This is the part in the scene where I enter. And then Matt will be like, dang it. If we don't get to that bank real soon before they close, we're not going to be able to sign that deed. And then Kat will be like, yeah, fucking let's, I'm going to run over there right now. But first I have to go upstairs because that's what I think my blocking is, unless I'm not going upstairs anymore. Am I going upstairs? I am. I'm going upstairs now. And then I'll turn to Matt and be like, I have this other line that I say to you before I leave because I have to give Philly time to get behind the bar to talk to you later. And then he'll be like, well, I don't know. If we don't do something soon, it's going to get messy out here. Like he sticks to his lines when nothing else is happening. In a world where his lines don't even make sense anymore because no one is doing the right thing, Matt Barr will say every single word of all of his lines.
First of all, that's the best impression that anyone's done of another cast member so far.
I have a good Matt Barr.
That's an amazing Matt Barr.
I have a good Matt Barr.
I wish that was on camera, or like if the cameras were around, like some sort of blooper.
I'll do it. I'll always do it.
I'll have to get you all. I think what I need to do is get you all on together, and maybe like a quote table read, and then it would be super fun to just see you guys just be you. I could just like sit back and be like, yeah, you guys just go ahead, do your thing. That's so funny. Like I could really see that happening where you're like, yeah, and I'm fucking moving over here. Yeah, okay, cool. And then I stand here for 5 minutes.
I'm gonna pick up this thing that I'm supposed to pick up, and something Kai needs help with the dresses because it's been too long. And everybody, it never comes back around to anything that makes sense unless it's Matt Barr, and he will be like 9 minutes ahead in the scene. What do you mean the railroad? And I'll be like, well, I didn't say the railroad because I didn't say that line. Fucking because Justin needs us to go out there because we are shooting that scene later today. Dang, if Callion's in, then I'm in. Well, thank you very much, sir. I like
that's
no relation to the plot, nothing. And there's Matt doing the thing.
Matt, that's the best impression that I've seen so far. That's a good one.
So happy.
Really good one.
Makes me so happy.
So I wanted to ask you too. So in terms of fans, we're like all over the place. So people are gonna listen to this and be like, we're crazy, but we are.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
But obviously the show has a lot of fans. We have this new Wallker Independence trending. There's a million people that are obsessed with the show that want to see it. So they don't get to talk to all of you guys and text all of you like I do and annoy you guys. So, of course, I always like to give everyone the floor. Is there anything that you want to say to all of the fans that love you? First of all, by the way, you have fans that have followed you from project to project.
Yeah.
And that have been a huge fan of yours for a very long time. And so, and they don't get to talk to you. Like, this is my, like, I literally think the last time I spoke to you was like a 5-10 minute thing for Carrie Diaries. For like, I think it was like the pilot.
God. Yeah. I was a completely different person.
Sophia like came in and I think like we just did like a really quick thing and
I remember that. I remember that.
Like it was really fast and you were like super sweet and like so nice. And then I was like excited for you guys. And then like, the show I think it was like the 1 season situation, but or 2 seasons. Yep. And like, wait, there's 2.
Hey,
I love that you also had by the way, side note, this is literally coming from my brain, but I also love the random apartment that like made no sense that like was able to be afforded that you guys lived in. It was like
an apartment? Yeah.
It like made no sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I loved it. It was kind of like my guilty pleasure. I love that show. But
I was like, I didn't have an apartment. I was stuck in town getting pregnant.
I know, like that. It was just so funny because the apartment like made no sense, but I was like, I'll go with it. But we have followed you from thing to thing. We love you so much. So much more that you're even like being yourself and talking about yourself and just fully coming into yourself. I love that even more. So I want to throw it over to you if there's anything that you would like to say to the fans other than me that's obsessed with you, because there's a million of us. And that miss you and love you and we want to see you on the show. So
thanks. Oh God, that's very overwhelming. Thank you. Listen, I'm just a weird little guy. I'm just a weird little guy and I'm out here by the skin of my teeth. And the fact that this continues to work is insane to me. And I quit in my brain and consider doing about 900 other things very, very often. Because I'm very sensitive and I'm very tired. And the fact that anybody gives a shit or continues to give a shit, the fact that anybody feels comforted by me, feels talked to by me, feels held, feels entertained, feels like they have a space in the world, in ways that are profound or not. Like I suffer from like crippling depression and anxiety. So like, I know that sometimes you just need to be in your house and not be alone in your house. You need to have other people there that can feel like your friends, and it doesn't matter what's happening. You just need to go to sleep and wake up alive and get through your day alive and go back to sleep. And that's success. And the idea that I've been part of that for anybody at any point is literally the only thing that matters about this job. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there's other shit that's very cool about this job, but like, that's the reason we tell each other stories, is to like keep each other alive and close to each other. So I don't know, it's nuts to me, and I'm incredibly grateful. And like, if you were one of those people who put me in your living room so that you felt like you had friends, like, you do, and I love you. And if you're wondering if I'm different in real life or if I wouldn't like you, the answer is probably no. No, I'm not different in real life. Yes, I like you. Like,
well, we love you. I mean, I would literally, like a loser, list out like How to Get Away with Murder, The Killing.
Doesn't make you a loser. That's fucking Shondaland. That's
I don't mean in terms of shows. Like, I mean in terms of you. The Killing, you were fantastic in that show.
I was a baby.
Nancy Drew, Zoe's Playlist. I mean, I can Katie it up. Like, I can like list all your stuff. Like, I'm a huge fan of you. You are fantastic. And all the roles that you play are so good. But I will say, I agree with you. I do think Wallker Independence next leveled. And I do think you next leveled yourself. And I couldn't be happier, because I think that you are living how you should be living, which is the most authentic way possible. And it changes everything. And you can see it in Wallker. And that's something that you'll have forever, because it's on camera. So you'll have that forever.
God, that's such a nice thing to say. What a beautiful thing to say to a person. Thank you.
It's true. I mean, it's true. You just see it. So, well, I love you so much. I would talk to you for another hour. We were literally supposed to end like an hour ago. I know, but I fucked up. I was like, I needed to talk about capitalism. You were so sweet, because you were like, I'm so sorry. You have to talk about the show. But no. I love you so much. Is there anything that you're working on right now, or are you just like waiting? Are we waiting to see where Wallker is, or like what are we doing?
I was waiting to see where my little village landed, and I respect the writer's strike, and I am chilling.
You're just waiting.
I'm chilling in this world and waiting for other people's wellness to settle and other people's livelihoods to settle. And
right.
We don't have picket lines in Vancouver, but if we did, I'd go take a stroll, basically.
All right. So you're just chilling, waiting. Being a mom, being a parent.
Oh no, I'm definitely, that's one funny thing about the genderqueer moment, is I am her whole ass mother. There's like, no, there are days where I'm like, I'm a cute little boy, I got it. When it comes to the girl, like, I am a mother.
Mm-hmm. Oh, beautiful.
She's like someone made a cartoon of like pierogi banana bread.
So funny. Well, I should tell everyone they can follow you on Instagram. So we can because and it's just the same. So like they could just like look up your name, so we could stay up to date with you, because hopefully, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, I still have hope for Wallker Independence. But if not, I mean, you're great in fucking everything. So there'll be something else. So, they could just follow you, but with your name. If they want to watch Independence, it's on the CW app for free. So you could stream it as much as you want, talk about it using the hashtags, keep talking about the show, and then hopefully we'll it's
also on HBO Max, which is
oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
That's yes thing to be able to say. Yeah, it's around. Go and watch it, and then tell me about it, because it makes me really happy, and now I get to nerd out over it with everybody else, which is very fun for me, because I can tell you things. If you ask me if something was an accident or a joke, I can tell you. Because the answer more than you would think is yes.
Yeah, so what you could basically do is go to the CW or go to HBO Max, right? Watch the show, and if you're like, oh wait, I have a question about this, take a little screenshot, tag her on Instagram and be like, was this real?
Please do. No, actually, please do. Here's my favorite question. My favorite question is, was this a bit? My favorite question. Like, pick a thing that you notice happening a lot. Check if it's a bit. Just check if it's a bit. It might not be, but we had a lot of bits. There's a lot of bits. I stole a lot of drinks. I held a lot of pears.
I know. Now I want to look for the drink thing because that I didn't catch. I didn't catch the drink thing, so I want to look at that.
Oh yeah, there was like a bunch more that got cut because the job of our show is not to cater to every stupid thing that I want to do every episode, but like some of them stayed in. I was taken care of. I'm telling you, they protected some pretty dumb things that every time I hit Matt, not scripted, like so many bits, so many bits.
I love it so much.
All day. It was 35 degrees. I couldn't survive unless I had bits.
Well, I have to say, everybody was right. So for all the interviews that have come out before you that everyone has listened to, and I think we have one with Kat that's coming out soon. Everybody, and I've said I think I said it on camera, but in case I didn't, everyone had told me that I had to talk to you. Everyone. And they're right, because I literally feel like you're like my BFF, like my I have like soulmate in you. Like I'm like, oh my God, so much. Like, I just want to like take care of you and talk to you and like check in on you. And like, so, and now I understand why everyone, Monica, you loudmouth, straightforward, crazy person, you need to talk to Katie. And now I understand.
Oh, look, we got another one of you.
To like get to know you.
Yeah.
It's been so great. Cause like, I would love to see you in person, but I haven't been able to interview you in a while.
Oh, no kidding.
And, it's so great to like have a long time to like talk with you and now
it's such a delight
in such a good way. So it's so great. So this was fantastic for me, and now I'm just going to bother you all the time because I just love you.
Please do. It's been such a pleasure. I'm gonna go feed my daughter because she's pretending that she loves me, but she's actually telling me that I've been sitting here for too long.
Yeah, and I probably have Chinese food outside.
Yeah, go get your Chinese food.
I'll heat it up. It's fine. Yeah, I ordered Chinese. Like, for anyone that doesn't know, I ordered Chinese food. I think before we started, or like right when we
an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, so it was DoorDash. So it's probably sitting outside, but it doesn't matter. You were more important. So
no one's more important than Chinese food.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And I cannot wait to cover hopefully Wallker Independent Season 2, manifesting it. But if it's another project, another movie, whatever comes your way, I'm here. I will cover everything because I love you. And that's
Thank you. I'll try and do you proud. I'll try and find something interesting if they don't put me back on my damn show.
And I think that's good. That's what we'll end it. So I love you. And thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. I love you too. Goodbye.
Bye. Hope you guys enjoyed listening to me and Katie discuss Wallker Independence, hear a little bit more about the behind the scenes, some of the fun aspects of the show, and why it's so critically important that this show finds a new home. So while we're all trying to save it and find a season 2 somewhere on some streaming platform, make sure you're showing your support and love by doing hashtag renew Wallker Independence, and make sure you head over to Katie's Instagram, follow it, so you're updated on everything that they're up to and just on top of all of the upcoming projects, so that we're here to support and just show our love and appreciation. And I want to thank Katie so much for being so open and honest during the interview. I had the best time and hope to be Katie's friend because they're so cool and beautifully honest. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you're updated on all of our latest podcasts, and head over to our YouTube channel and hit subscribe so you're the first ones to see our video content. So make sure you head over there so you don't miss a thing. Thanks so much. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode.